All right, it is an early morning, sort of. I don't know, Austin and Mike, you guys have been up for a while, already done a show, so you guys should be ready to go. We are going to talk about all of the picks that have been made through rounds 1 through 3. We're going to talk about it from a team perspective, though. So we're going to run through every single team. Their picks up on the screen, so you won't have to see our Zoom room all the time. But we've got myself, Mike, Eric, Austin, and Steven in the room. Austin, you got any smelling salts for us?
I do. I'm going to crack one. If you're going to prompt me, I'm going to crack one here. I'm going to go full Adam Gase on day 3 here.
How many do you have over there?
Oh, my God. All right, fucking let's go.
All right. So the goal here is to kind of speed round through each team. Some teams will spend a little bit more time on because they made a few more picks or more noteworthy picks. Like the Packers, we could probably do 30 minutes on. But for Mike's sake,
we want to.
We'll keep it a little shorter. Let's get it rolling. Let's start with the Baltimore Ravens. Patrick Queen in round 1, then they go running back in round 2. Michael, your thoughts on their draft overall so far?
I love the first pick. I mean, the Patrick Queen pick's fantastic there, right off the rip. Him falling to where they were, like I said, they're 27th on the draft board, as you see. After that, hit and miss. I think their third rounders, obviously, we're going to be a lot bigger fans of than their second rounder there, J.K. Dobbins. What are you going to do? They thought they are the team that running back actually might matter a little bit for in terms of they run a lot. They run more than anyone else in the NFL. So incremental difference there does actually make a change for them. But the third round pick, the one that I want to highlight here is Devin Duvernay, Texas wide receiver. What he brings to the table, 4.39 speed. Former track star, slot guy. He will be that jet sweep option in that offense. He's a solidly built slot wide receiver too, like 210 pounds. He will be, I wonder if Greg Roman doesn't have a plan for him in terms of, slot running back versatility where like he comes from the slot to the backfield, that sort of stuff, and you run triple option. You can get creative with a guy like that. So that's one of my favorite picks there in the third round that I wanted to highlight.
I think Robert Griffin III said it best. He tweeted out recently, he said, we got a track team here in Baltimore, baby. They got some speed. Like, I really do like how much speed they had there. Patrick Queen, a very fast player. Obviously, you have Devin Duvernay, ran a 4.39 at good size. I think they're adding – I think I agree with Mike somewhat that, like, they run the football so much that having just this monstrous, a ton of different running backs, eliteness over completeness at that position maybe makes sense for Baltimore. And, like, I think my favorite pick of this crop here is Patrick Queen. They stayed put. They didn't trade up. They didn't, really feel confident in their projection. They thought the board would fall to them. And Patrick Queen, where they picked him, I think it's a very, very good pick. I like that a lot.
I think when you look at this, though, they must be putting some faith in like the Miles Boykins of the world, because last season in the playoffs, they could not get open in that sort of intermediate range for Lamar Jackson against Tennessee. And it was interesting for them not to take one of those, wide receivers, that this draft was full of with their first pick or even their second pick. Duvernay, again, more of like a gadgety sort of player. So just interesting there that is still somewhat of a weakness on their football team.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely speed, added more playmakers. Marquise Brown last year. Mike, you mentioned Duvernay. I mean, I love the way those the offensive playmakers are stacking up in Baltimore. And we thought they might be devaluing the linebacker position a little bit, but they got Patrick Queen with his speed, Malik Harrison, who could see some time as a solid player. So, I mean, I think they're getting better on the back 7 as well. So I think they made a couple strengths a little bit stronger, though, as far as playmaker goes and their back 7.
I'm sorry, I just have to say, I don't care who the running back is. Taking one in the second round is ridiculous. And here's the thing. Does a better running back help a little bit? Sure, they're going to run the ball a lot. But they have proven with Gus Edwards and Mark Ingram that it's all about their scheme. And so why take a second-round flyer? You mentioned Devin Duvernay. That's my favorite pick as well, because you could play him at running back, and he could run through those wide-open holes that they generate and be successful. So I don't know why you would invest a second-round pick in a running back. I love them standing pat, taking Patrick Queen. But this is just an average draft because of the running back in round 2, in my opinion. I thought you guys were going to be throwing out letter grades. We didn't even talk about this before. I had them all ready to go. I guess I'm the only person.
Are we all doing letter grades? I thought we weren't doing around the horn stuff.
Yeah.
I can go letter grades.
What would you give? I'm just curious. I want to see how grounded I am.
I give that a B.
It's a B.
I think B minus, because I agree. Even though like J.K. Dobbins to the Ravens is different than other teams, like it's still running back in the second round.
going C- for that reason.
I'm C+.
I'm going to curve to like a 3.2 GPA here.
I like where your head's at. All right, let's move to the Cincinnati Bengals, the hometown Bengals, baby. Obviously, Joe Burrow at the top. We didn't talk enough about this. I feel like we couldn't have because we spent so much time leading up to the draft talking about Joe Burrow. They then come back and get T. Higgins, number 25 on our board at 33, and then Logan Wilson at 65 in the third round. First two picks just stand out to me in that they are building what was an atrocity last year into a team that is going to compete very soon.
Big fan. Obviously, the Burrow pick, no brainer. Cooler heads prevailed there. We touched on that a lot, but the Higgins one then, love the long-term vision here. Give Burrow a guy right away that you have, he can build a rapport with that over the next decade. You hope that that's going to be his go-to guy. And I think he has the skill set that can win with Joe Burrow and that Joe Burrow likes to throw to is just guys with a big catch race, likes to give him a chance. And that's been his MO over the course of his LSU career. Even in 2018, when things weren't great, he was giving his guys chances to make plays down the field. So T. Higgins has been one of the best in college football over the past 2 years at doing that. So I like both those picks. Logan Wilson, now we were lower on him. The need at linebacker, pretty obvious there. I still think he's a good linebacker off the board. We're just lower on linebackers in general. He doesn't fit, to me, the modern coverage prototype, but if you're going to use him more as a blitzer, that's a role in your defense. Not sure what their plan is, obviously, for him. I think he can do that. He's one of the better blitzing linebackers in this class.
We've been talking. One of the big stories for us was Josh Jones, a first-round caliber tackle on our board, falling all the way to the third round for the Arizona Cardinals. We thought that the Bengals were going to take him top of the second. They had a chance to take him top of the third. I think that's going to be the pick that we look back on and say, when you're trotting Bobby Hart out there for the next year, should this have been the guy, right? Should it have been Josh Jones and Jonah Williams as your bookend tackles for Joe Burrow going forward? Even though Logan Wilson might fit a need, they've needed playmaking linebackers for a while, but I think that's the one that we're going to be looking back on and say, okay, this offense could have been even better.
I think that's a great take, Steve, because I think if you had to look at any of their picks and which one where you really want to sub out a player, it's Logan Wilson for Josh Jones. I think Josh Jones, I don't understand, of all the players that fell compared to PFF's board, he's one that I really didn't get. Grading profile, fantastic, improved every year of his career. Yes, he played in the group of five, but had an opportunity to prove himself against Power 5 top-level competition at the Senior Bowl and did exactly that. I don't know why he fell that far. I think if I had to sub out one pick, it's bringing Josh Jones over Logan Wilson.
I mean, that's not even a question, right? We could have been, we were talking about Josh Jones as the obvious pick at 33. So, if you sit there, I joked about this last night. It's I picked 7 players. They were 1 through 7 on my big board, right? But you legitimately had a chance to go, 3 in the top 25 on our board at least. And I think it's not a far cry to say that those are fairly widely appreciated players. But I want to highlight, Joe Burrow once again. It's the pick you had to make, but they did make it, and they were offered a ton of trade-up opportunities. They stood pat. They didn't let the Chase Young noise get to them. They made the pick they had to make, and I'm just so excited for Joe Burrow to play football. It's going to be a lot of fun. A team going from a team you'd never watch on Sunday to a team where you're excited to watch makes the league better. And so this, the third round pick was not great. But I'm still going to give it a B because those first 2 picks make this team exciting.
Shall we move to the Redskins?
Let's do it.
I will give it a A. I think it's just a very, very good draft for those first 2 picks. And the diminishing returns as you go further down the draft, yes, they passed on Josh Jones, and he was 29th on the consensus board, and that'd be great value there. But the first 2 picks are the guys that really usually matter for a franchise. Hitting on those is what really matters to a draft. So getting those locked down and being good, that's an A draft.
It's my thinking, Mike, is if you were handed those picks, I don't want to give you too much credit for making them, Yeah. So it's whether are you grading the decision making or the actual result of the pick.
I think because I
see where you're coming from.
Result is very important though, even still to some degree. That's what impacts your franchise.
I agree.
I go A- here just because I'm hung up on Logan Wilson over Josh Jones.
I'm going to go with B plus. B plus because I think that they were building their defense to play more nickel and dime. With their free agency signings, the linebacker doesn't make a ton of sense unless they're only considering him on early downs, which I think limits the value of the pick relative to Josh Jones.
All right, the Redskins. Chase Young at number 2, number 3 on our big board, and then Antonio Gibson, my guy. Wide receiver on the sheet here, but man, this guy is going to play in the backfield, should play all over the place. Number 97 on our big board from Memphis. Only 2 picks here, so not a ton to dissect, but they get 2 playmakers, that is for sure. Mike, what are your thoughts?
The young one, if they didn't get a trade offer, that's the pick. So obviously, I think he comes into the NFL as a top 10 edge defender from day one. The Gibson one, I thought we liked him as a 97th player on board. You know, like I was like me being like sticking my neck out, being like, yeah, I love what he brings to the table. So 66 to me, it's crazy because he doesn't play wide receiver. He is a running back at the NFL level. That is who he is. Now he can catch, but he can't. He's not a route runner to split out wide, that sort of thing. So really dynamic though with the ball in his hands. I can't argue the way the running back class fell, like where they got him relative to the rest of the running backs. I really liked the pick where they got him at 66. I don't like as much.
Wait, George loves a running back? Did you just say he's a running back after George was loving him?
Uh-oh.
But with Antonio Gibson, I feel like what they're trying to, like Dwayne, I think that Antonio Gibson will help Dwayne Haskins. Terry McLaurin was obviously fantastic in 2019, but then you have Antonio Gibson who can like very close to the line of scrimmage, catch a lot of passes and do damage with the ball in his hands. If you filter the 2019 season and look at every player with 30 plus carries, not like 100 or 150, but 30 plus carries, Antonio Gibson has the best force miss tackle rate on those carries of any back in the country. Like this guy, super elusive, yak ability for days. Like Mike said, not really a receiver. You don't want him running routes down the football field, but in like a Tony Pollard type of role, another Memphis back with a similar skill set, I think could have a ton of success.
Cowboys legend. Yeah, here's the thing. This is the tough thing about these situations is you don't know the trade offer at number 2. And so I would presume they got 1 or 2. And those are trade offers you have to look at when you're not taking a quarterback, unlike the Bengals were. So to me, this is a rather disappointing draft because as much as I love Antonio Gibson, I'm still not overdrafting players at a bit part position, and that's ultimately what it is. So to me, this is a C minus at best, just because they probably gave a lot of value on the board.
Yeah, I'm gonna go C, flat C.
Wow.
You have need everywhere on this roster besides probably running back. The position you drafted in the second round a couple of years ago, in the 4th round last year, and you have Adrian Peterson. So that one was a head scratcher for sure.
Dude, Redskins fans are going to be upset. They got Chase Young. He's a Hall of Famer, Mike. You're going to give it a C. I'm with you, though. I understand. Antonio Gibson pick was not.
But that was the expected pick, too, is the thing.
Let's just think about this for a second. Okay, let's say that they were able to trade down to 5 and pick up maybe even another first rounder. You know, okay, maybe they don't get Chase Young, but they have need everywhere. Maybe they get Isaiah Simmons. Maybe they get Jeff Okudah. You know, like there are ways for them to still come out of this draft with a great defensive player and another player and then not take a running back in the 3rd round, right? Like that is such a better outcome, and we have to judge it against that. It's not that Chase Young isn't great. It's that there are other outcomes that are far better that they just passed up on.
We still don't know what the trade-up was. We don't know if there was a trade-up offer.
I'm just saying, I'd assume there were.
There was reportedly no trade offers. No one, the Chargers and Giants didn't want, or Chargers and Dolphins did not want to move up. So.
My opinion there is like if there was a trade offer where they could have maybe grabbed like 2 first-round picks or something like that, this is in the C minus range. But if there wasn't, like maybe C plus B minus. I don't love the Antonio Gibson pick from a value standpoint, but like Chase Young was the best player there in terms of maybe don't go after Tua, but like I don't know. I think C plus B minus I can get on board.
Yeah, I'm with you, Austin.
I want to say they didn't try so hard to look for trades. That is going to be my guess.
It's a lot of speculation though. Like we honestly don't know. Like I don't know. It's a lot of speculation about the trades.
You're giving them the benefit of the doubt. We're going to take you up at least through noon with the start of the later rounds here. So thank you for hanging out with us. If you don't have a PFF draft guide, by the way, you can see all of the big board ranks and much more detail on all of these guys. Go to pff.com, use promo code DRAFT2020, and you get 30% off. Play with the mock draft simulator. Enjoy the rest of the draft because it's all we got, baby. Let's go to the Detroit Lions. And this one I'm very excited to talk about. Jeffrey Okudah at the top, then DeAndre Swift at 2, then Julian Okwara, Mike, one of your favorite picks from yesterday, and then Jonah Jackson So kind of all over the map here. I'll let someone else kick it off.
Yeah, I texted my buddy who's the Lions fan this morning. I was like, God damn it, I love the Lions draft. Like, they got a lot of talent in this draft at positions they legitimately needed. And so Jeffrey Okudah, obviously, we love him at the top. That one, no brainer there. But the Aquara pick at 67, he was a top 10. He was 10th on Bruce Feldman's Freaks list last year. Those guys go in the first round for the most part on the edge. Like, edges with freak athleticism get overdrafted usually. We thought he had elite production last year at Notre Dame as a pass rusher and gets underdrafted in our eyes. So that to me is a steal. And then Jonah Jackson, another one of my guys in this draft class, the best pass protecting guard. You get those three guys should be instant impact guys. And then DeAndre Swift, the best receiving back. If you're going to draft a back, that was the guy you're going to take there.
Here's a question.
Aquara, and Jackson are like two very, very good picks from a value standpoint. Like, I really do like those are the players that they probably should have picked at those spots. Like, all of those players, like you said, are going to be impact players in 2020. Like DeAndre Swift, not great value. It's a running back. I got it. But like you said, Mike, I mean, he's the best pass catching back in this class. And Kerryon Johnson has battled injuries, legit injuries that have affected his play even when healthy. Like, even when he's playing like that shoulder injury, you could tell he's not the same back when he was fully healthy. Like, maybe it wasn't a need per se, but like DeAndre Swift could get the rock a ton in 2020.
I think in the short term, though,
trade up?
If
the trade,
go ahead.
Like, do we have to talk about number 3 and being a spot where, yeah, they got a great player who I think fits with them really well and adds a ton of value, but at the same time, like, that pick would have, that pick could have been a quarterback, and
they were not, Eric. There was no trade offers. There was reported no one wanted to move up for these trade offs. Like,
I mean, yeah, we're going to say the same thing about the Giants. I mean, yes, we want every team to trade down if there was an offer, but I don't know, take their word for it that there wasn't.
Yeah, but then, okay, so if Matthew Stafford has another year like last year where he's able only to play half the season, then my only issue is with Okudah is a great pick, but there is some left on the bone there, right? Because, they could be, looking towards the future at the QB position.
Do you think you should have taken Tua?
I think Tua should be in that conversation at 3, yeah.
Okay, I'm more on board with that than like they should have traded down. I'm more on board with that. Like, I'm down to take that conversation.
That's my point is with the last pick as well, is you're either taking the value in that pick is that you can take a quarterback that can change your franchise. So you either take him because that's the value, or you trade out of it and take a defensive player. The tough thing with DeAndre Swift, though, is I'm looking at guys that were still, available, right? And you've got like a Laviska Shenault, you've got Jalen Johnson, you've got I don't have a problem doubling down on corner. Like, I just don't. And to me, they left a lot of value on the board there. Grant Delpit was still available. I would have loved Laviska Shenault, Denzel Mims. So that's the one I have a hard time getting over.
The thing is, right now, with the Lions roster construction, first off, they're picking for the short term because they're trying to save their jobs. It's not the right way to build, but, I mean, Patricia's trying to save his job, so he's going to take a corner and not a quarterback. If you look at the way they're built, if Stafford's healthy, they're 3 deep at wide receiver with Kenny Golladay, with Marvin Jones, with Danny Amendola. Now at corner, it's a good group of Jeffrey Okudah. Hopefully Desmond Trufant comes back and Justin Coleman in the slot. They're built well at those positions that we feel good about. And then the DeAndre Swift pick, at least in that offense where they added TJ Hawkinson at tight end, now you've got the pass-catching running back. They do, at least at their respective positions, have 5 legitimate pass-catching weapons. So, again, running back value aside, if Swift is going to fit in anywhere, I like the fit in Detroit with all the other weapons there.
If Detroit didn't have that pick, what would the grade of if that pick didn't exist, what would the grade be?
It's an A. It's 3 top 40 players.
Yeah, I give it an A.
So then with the
DeAndre Swift pick, I'm going B-. I can't go C+ when you add Aquara and Jonah Jackson at the picks they did. I can't go C+. I'm going B-.
I'm going. Yeah, I'm going C+. I love the other 3 picks. 35 is way too valuable to take a running back, no matter how good he is at pass catching.
I'm going A. I think they still added a lot of good talent.
They did. They absolutely did.
I'm going B.
To B.
All right, New York Giants. We probably didn't talk enough about the Giants last night. They come out at 4. They get Andrew Thomas, number 1 tackle on our board. At 36, they grab Xavier McKinney at 19th on our big board, and then Matt Pert, number 96 on our board at 99. So they got players that we had well above where they were picking in their first 2 picks. which is really great. I mean, the Giants had opportunities, and I'd say this about the Lions as well. They could have taken a player like, say, Derek Brown at 3 or 4. At least they took players, right, that are there or should be really good players in valuable positions.
It's interesting. They didn't. Kudos to Dave Gettleman. He didn't chase traits. Like, he didn't chase upside with these picks. He drafted guys who we believe right now are damn good football players that can start from day one in the NFL, and Andrew Thomas and Xavier McKinney right off the bat. And then again, kudos to Dave Gettleman. He drafted the tackle before you actually need the tackle. They obviously have Nate Solder there, was under contract for at least another year, but probably won't be much longer than that. I'm not exactly sure the details of it, but with how much he's getting paid, he's not a long-term option there, but Peart, developmental guy, get him now. Hopefully he'll be up to speed in 2021. Really like this draft.
All three picks, I think, are great. All three picks are great. Andrew Thomas, Xavier McKinney, Matt Peart, the software folk in New York are just grinding the tape and doing a great job already.
Yeah, I mean, it's short and long term, as Mike said, which is great. I just love the concept of doubling up at a position and a position that you're going to need for Daniel Jones, who already holds the ball a tick too long. The offensive line wasn't as bad as Giants fans think because of Daniel Jones holding the ball, but the forward-thinking approach that Matt Peart, one of our favorite developmental tackles, and we call him developmental because he played well and he hasn't played a ton of football, performed pretty well at the Senior Bowl. He could be that starting tackle down the road. Andrew Thomas goes to left tackle with Nate Solder moving on. So it's a good short and long-term approach by the Giants. And Xavier McKinney just adds more versatility on the back end, something that they've done a pretty good job of the last 2 or 3 years on the defensive side.
Versatility and wit. I'm telling you, man, this guy's just super smart. And I feel like I really do. When you ask a player to line up a ton of different places, he better also be very, very smart in terms of assignment. And I think that's exactly what you get in Xavier McKinney.
Xavier McKinney was a guy that projects really well from a mathematical standpoint as well. And here's what I loved about this draft. People are hesitant to double dip at a position. When the position is deep, that is when you double dip. You don't do that next year or 2 years down the road when they're thin. When the classes are deep, take multiple players at that position. They did that with the tackle. I really like this draft. I'm going to go A-, just because I can't give out a flat A.
I will go straight A on this draft. They got two guys who probably would have gone there. And then Peart, that's where I would have gone with a lot of those picks.
I'm going A as well. I'm
going A- just because I still think they need a receiver, but I don't hate any of their picks.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an A, and I'm surprised that they went Andrew Thomas at 4 rather than the guys that crushed it at the combine. That was
PFF's top tackle on the board, baby. PFF's top tackle on the board. I don't know a lot of other evaluators that had Andrew Thomas as the top tackle. Mike has had Andrew Thomas as the top tackle all throughout, even including the combine, where Tristan Wirfs legitimately was a rocket ship. Kudos to Mike for kind of highlighting that.
Dave Gettleman buying into the traits of PFF. That's what I like to see.
What do you think is in his binder? It's the 1,250-page draft
guide. Dude, he just printed out the draft guide.
He literally had 2 binders. I mean, it was like.
Has anybody made that meme yet? Have we thrown our cover on there? Somebody Charles, get that together. This PFF draft guide.
Let's make it happen. All right, let's move to the Dolphins. I'm really excited to talk about this draft. So they get 2 at 5. I think we might look back on the past 5-10 years of drafts and say there might not be a bigger steal than 2 at 5. I mean, that's fantastic. Could have been the number 1 player off the board and was 3 months ago, right? And then Austin Jackson, Noah Igbenogany.
Oh, that was a Tego ravioli response.
That was awful
pronunciation.
Noah Igbenogany.
Igbenogany. I had it 30 minutes ago. Robert Hunt at offensive tackle, Raekwon Davis, defensive tackle 56, and then Brandon Jones, safety at 70. Steve, Tua at 5, just an absolute steal, right?
It absolutely is. And, they fooled me. I thought they really did love Justin Herbert. And I think that's the best part about all this stuff, right? We did a million mock drafts along the way. We understand quarterback value. We said we would absolutely trade up to 2. We would do it if we were the Dolphins. Give up 18, give up 39. The fact that they, instead of trading up, they just played us all, or at least played me. And they sat at 5, and say what you want about Austin Jackson as their first tackle pick. And they kept all of their draft capital and got their guy. I think that is the play of the draft. So Tua has all the skills. He's not Dan Marino, but he's got all the skills to be their guy at quarterback. So I love that for the Dolphins.
Chris on the live broadcast on round one hit the nail on the head, talking about like the Miami Herald's, Palm Beach Post talking about Tua's unreported injuries. They want Herbert. They want to trade up for a tackle. This is poker, baby. They did a fantastic job of not letting the Chargers trade up. Like the Chargers were probably confident they could have landed Tua Tagovailoa at 6. There were mock drafts by respected, predicting analysts that had Tua Tagovailoa going to the Chargers at 6. And I think the Chargers ate it up, and the Miami Dolphins benefited.
I'll touch on some of those other picks. I thought they had this like strategy all planned out with Austin Jackson, Noah Igbenogany, two guys who are super young, 20 years old, your quote unquote upside picks. But then they draft a guy who's going to be 24 in Robert Hunt by week 1, and then 23, Raekwon Davis, like safe, sort of like Robert Hunt. I feel like he's one of the better guards in this class. I feel like he's plug and play in that regard. Raekwon Davis, going to be a good run defender, has the length, has the size, has been a good run defender. Nothing as a pass rusher whatsoever. So, and then Brandon Jones, you saw he was lower on our draft board, but the absolute perfect scheme fit. And if it was even in the draft guide saying like he is much better in man coverage on the slot and on tight ends than anything else he does. And that is the one scheme, the scheme in the NFL where you can actually do that every single snap. That can be your role. So I think that if he were to go anywhere, that's where I would have slotted him to go in the NFL. So don't absolutely hate that pick, even though his big board rank is lower. So kind of all over the map, but the Tua pick really sells it for me in this draft.
I mean, Austin Jackson's a project. Yeah. You took a project at tackle at 18, and I look at the guys still on the board. I mean, Jalen Reagor was still on the board. Like, if you're going to take a project at tackle, do that later on. You have so many picks there. Take a player that you can put on the field right now that can make plays. That is what pick 18 is for, and they didn't do that. So I'm really torn. Tua, amazing. I really like taking a corner with, that kind of physical profile, is a little higher, but at least you're taking a guy that, if he's a great cornerback, you get a ton of value there. Developmental offensive tackle at 18 is hard for me to get behind.
Matt Pure at 99 versus Austin Jackson at 18 is literally night and day. Like, I love what the Giants did with Pure at 99 compared to what the Dolphins did at 18 with Austin Jackson.
I think when you look at the Dolphins draft, the thing I respect the most is that these guys have roles and they're building with at least the right positions. It might not be the right players, but they know that offensive line is a disaster. They attacked that with 2 players. Igbenogany is going to play in the slot where his skills translate best, which complement Byron Jones and Xavier Howard on the outside perfectly. Brandon Jones becomes your tight end guy, like Mike said, your Patrick Chung comp. And then Raekwon Davis, it was high for him. Okay, here's your safe run stopper. The fact that all of these guys have a very specific role that fits into the fabric of the team that they've built, I love that entire thing as a concept.
Fabric. So I'm torn here. I'm gonna go B.
Wow, man, I'm gonna go. I think Tua Tagovailoa is carrying this. I mean, Robert Hunt pick's good. There's some other ones I like. I think Tua is just such a good pick that I'm gonna go B+.
I'll also go B+ because of the Tua and because they went cornerback with the 2 highest paid cornerbacks in the NFL. I just love the thought process.
Yep, I forgot about Noah, but I like the Noah Benogany pick. I know he was 55th, I think, on PFF Sports, still a top 10 corner in the sky. And I think his best football is ahead of him, and he's in the right scheme to do it.
I'm B+ with you guys. I think, some good, some could have been better.
Yeah, I think B, just because, again, if you just have Tua, it's A. If you just have the other picks, I think it's more like D. So it sort of split the difference there a little bit.
By the way, with the Dolphins, part of this process, too, is to take a 2-year approach so they could be in this position, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, they won the draft last year. They didn't bring a lot of players in, but they set themselves up for this year to add a lot of volume, a lot of lottery tickets, so to speak, and they put themselves in position to get to it and all these players.
I need to know if their strategy was calculated, right? Or whether they just so many things happened to come out from that building that it worked in their favor in terms of playing poker to get Tua.
I think the majority of the teams, it's just random. Right?
It's a little lucky, right?
That's what we've always said.
Anyways, teams should do that in the future. The team that kind of maybe got hoodwinked was Los Angeles Chargers. They end up with Justin Herbert at 6, and they trade up to get Kenneth Murray. And I'll lead this off. This is in, I think, my bottom 3 to 4 drafts. Justin Herbert standing pat at 6, and then just taking Justin Herbert with a team that is that talented makes just no sense to me. The guy's inability to throw the ball accurately when you need it to be thrown accurately is concerning. And then trading up to get Kenneth Murray with Patrick Queen still on the board, like that makes no sense to me. So this is one of my least favorite drafts. I would be tempted to go, probably going to go D-.
It's tough. We hit this one hard, and our thoughts are all out there on what we think about Herbert at this point. No need to hammer that one home. The Murray one, he's a project. Like you like that he's improved since, from 18 to 2019, but he is just still, his instincts all over the place. Like his ability to read and react accurately and quickly all over the place in the linebacker position. Can you fix that? Can you fix it with a more simplistic scheme? Sometimes, like the Chargers, I think is a good fit for him in that. And they're not going to ask him to do a bunch of diverse sort of things there in that defense. But at 23, you didn't have to. You could have gotten that value, or like a guy like that. You didn't have to move up back into the first round as far as they did to go get a guy like that in this draft. So
how good?
I'll go C-, or I'll go D+ in this.
How good Kenneth Murray has to be to accrue the value that they trade their second and third round picks away to go up and grab Kenneth Murray.
37 and 71. While you talk about this, I'm just going to go look at some players they could have had there.
Like how good Kenneth Murray has to be is absurd. And I just don't know if he can ever get to that level, knowing that like he has difficulties on the back, like turning his back to the line of scrimmage, playing coverage, and like some zone concepts, instincts not necessarily there yet for Kenneth Murray. I don't love the Justin Herbert pick, but it's my favorite pick of the two. And I think, George, you phrased it best. It's among my least favorite draft classes thus far through days 1 and 2. D+ is aggressive because I think you have to swing the bat at the quarterback position. C-, but you're hanging on a thread. 70.1% is probably where I'm hitting right there.
I don't think you have to swing the bat.
I give it.
You can sign Jameis Winston.
I give it an F because you could have. I mean, they picked Kenneth Murray before the Packers picked Jordan Love, who's not that much different than Justin Herbert. And like, how much better is Kenneth Murray than like Willie Gay, right? Like,
not. I would argue not. I don't think he is better.
And the Chiefs took with the last pick or second to last pick in the second round. The Chargers they took their second round pick, which is higher than the Chiefs, and their first round pick, packaged them up, moved up. Like, this doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And then the Herbert thing as well. Like, I mean, was anybody jumping the gun to get Herbert at 6, or could they have moved back?
They could have.
They thought Miami was. I think they thought Miami was taking Herbert at 5. I mean, Steve did.
They could have gone Laviska Shenault. They could have gone Laviska Shenault and Josh Jones at 37 and 71. I mean, like,
it's the nature of the draft here, right? I going in, because I bought into the Herbert hype to Miami, I thought the Chargers were going to walk away winners. I thought they were Tua was going to fall into their laps. Instead, it did feel a little bit like a panic pick, right? Like, well, who's the next quarterback on the board? It's Justin Herbert. Look, you take swings at quarterback. I considered that, like when I was doing mock drafts earlier, I considered, okay, you have to take a shot at quarterbacks, but you take it at 6. The thing about Kenneth Murray, though, if there's a position where I'm less likely to maybe lean on our evaluation of a player and say, okay, this athletic linebacker might be a pretty good player, it's that position at linebacker, especially with all of the talent around him. But the point of, he's got to be the equivalent of 3 players, right? He has to be as good as 3
highly drafted players.
Right. He's got to be the equivalent of 3 players. It's the same thing of the Steelers trading up for Devin Bush last year. Like, is he worth 2 players just because you have this massive need at linebacker? I will say adding speed to that back 7, great, but he's got to play football better. That's the thing. The NFL liked him a lot more than we did at linebacker, but going up to get him at 23 is really, really risky.
And George has said this a ton, but like, don't trade up for non-quarterbacks. I'm 100% on board with that. But like, there are positions where I feel better about, like wide receiver, tackle maybe. But like, off-ball linebacker is very, very low on that list. If I'm trading up, it's not an off-ball linebacker, especially one of Kenneth Murray's caliber.
All right, let's move to the Cardinals here. We've done enough of the poor Chargers. The Arizona Cardinals. What's up?
Where's DeAndre Hopkins on this list?
Yeah, right.
Their second round pick.
I told Mike that I hate that. I hate when we do that. Like you traded a second round pick for DeAndre Hopkins. You also traded it for his contract. Like, it's a totally different situation than drafting DeAndre Hopkins at the second round.
I tweeted it just because I knew it would do retweets, but I think it's very dishonest of me to do.
At least you're honest about being dishonest.
This draft is the A+ draft. There are 3 drafts I'm going to give an A+ to. This is one of them. Isaiah Simmons at number 8 overall, easy value money pick. That one, chalk it up. He's no sure thing, but he is a freak of nature. They don't grow on trees. You're not getting that guy in the second round. And then Josh Jones. We talked about it enough on the broadcast. He was like Aaron Rodgers sitting in the green room with how much we talked about it. He's just a very good offensive tackle. We think he's good. It's not just us. He was 29th on the consensus board, or EFSON's consensus board, that takes into account a lot of evaluators. A lot of people think this guy's good. To get him at 72nd overall is a steal.
You look at the consensus board by The Athletic, which compiles over 65 experts, like evaluators and forecasters. And Josh Jones is one of the steals of this draft so far. Like, it's not just PFF that likes Josh Jones. Like, a lot of people really, really did value Josh Jones. That's why I love that pick. This is an A for me. Isaiah Simmons, Josh Jones, and DeAndre Hopkins on a rookie contract. Oh, wait, no, he's got that contract coming with him. But I do like this draft class for Arizona.
Yeah, I don't know why Jones went down so far. I mean, I tried to ask around the league, guys, what happened, and people still like him. People like him in the top 30, top 35, and all that stuff. So sometimes that's just how the board plays out. I mean, the Cardinals over the last 2 years, we'll see how last year's draft class plays out, but we loved all of their picks as far as where they got players and how they would fit into their scheme. I think all of their draft class from last year, a bunch of them need to, take a step forward this year to kind of justify the fact that we loved that draft. But I think they'll have a plan for Isaiah Simmons. Josh Jones is a starting tackle right away. And the idea of adding Nuke Hopkins, it wasn't a draft pick, but man, incredible value adding one of the best wide receivers this offseason. So loving what the Cardinals are doing.
A+.
Good job by our guy, Vance Joseph, not being worried about where the heck he's going to play Isaiah Simmons, in that defense. They got a lot of versatility there. I'm going with A.
And looking at what the Seahawks and Rams and Niners did around them, this could be, a really, really big draft for that whole division. All right, let's move on. Carolina Panthers. Derek Brown at 7. This one felt like it was going to happen, and I couldn't quite believe it. And then it happened, and I still can't quite believe it, because taking a guy who, and by all accounts, Derek Brown is a fantastic human being, but a guy who's going to contribute first and foremost as a run stopper when you're a team that literally needs so much in so many places, just does not make sense to me. He was 16th on our big board. You take him 7th. And then I think their other 2 picks are honestly big stretches as well, as you can see by the discrepancy between their big board rank and where they took them. So for me, this is a D-, F+, I would say.
This felt like, to me, this draft with Derek Brown going where he went, like it felt like the guy in slow pitch softball who goes up there and just hits it, slaps it to right field. You go up there, you can slow pitch softball, you can swing.
Struts to first.
But he just taps it into right field, takes his first, takes maybe a double if the guy if it gets between the outfielders, and you chalk it up. You got a W, you got on base, you didn't screw up the team. That's how I feel about the Derek Brown pick. Yetur Gross-Matos, honestly, at that point in the draft, I'm not going to hate on choosing a developmental guy the way we saw. 68th on our board. We were a little lower on him, but he's very much a developmental guy and has the developmental tools. So at least you didn't use, your first round pick on a guy, one shot at gaining some talent. And the Jeremy Chin thing, another guy with the tools to develop, has a very, most freakishly athletic safety in this draft class alongside Kyle Duggar. To get him where they got him, I'm not going to hate. So I think I'm a little higher on this than Georgia is. Probably I'm going to go C+ with this draft.
Oh, wow.
My take here is that you can't be overconfident in your own evaluations as much. I mean, PFF, as much as I love their evaluations, you can't be overconfident. If you just look at PFF's evaluations, probably going to D+, but if you bank on, you look at the consensus board, every pick that they picked was below where the consensus saw them, or above, or whatever. They were good picks compared to
Which
the consensus. I don't know. Now I'm lost. But
how are the smelling salts coming?
The best way to phrase it is kind of how Renner said, you hit singles, doubles with these picks. You didn't try and hit home runs. You didn't maybe take any risks. But I think I would say C+ as well. Again,
I feel like the second 2 are risky. The first one's not.
So I'm going to phrase risk in a different way, which is you're trying to win football games and taking players who are not going to contribute, even if they, as much as you would want from a 7th pick, even if they hit their ceiling, is risky, right? Because you're trying to win football games.
The only justification I think for these collection of picks is kind of like Christian Wilkins last year, where you're not going to win this year,
Sure.
and you're waiting until next year to find out exactly the sort of upper tier players you need to win. But if they're trying to win in 2020, this draft is not going to help them very much. Moving.
That's a good take. That's a good take.
Yeah, they're not going to win much into 2020. It's safe in that you think you got really good run defenders up front, and it does feel like the Christian Wilkins pick with Miami and the Cleveland Farrell pick with the Raiders last year. New regime, get the guy that's just going to go play, average to above average 700-800 snaps up front. So they have the worst corner situation, and they got to face Brady, Breeze, and Ryan 6 times next year. It's not looking good in the short term, at least for the
betting the over in every one of their games.
That's how you tank for Trevor. All right, the Jacksonville Jaguars. This was a really interesting draft, and the way that I would there are a couple drafts like this. To me, this was going super high variance. Players with a ton of physical tools. Some of them, Laviska Shenault, with a lot of injury concern, but players that have top end possibility. Laviska Shenault in the second is one of my favorites. 18th on our big board. The guy is just impossible to tackle. Mike, you have a bunch of missed tackle stats on him that I just think people need to know because you would forget them seeing how injured he was over the past season.
Yes, that's the thing. It's like the first 5 games of 2018, true sophomore, over 700 yards in 5 games, gets hurt, goes down, comes back, just never looked fully healthy, multiple surgeries over the last 2 years, but 29 broken tackles in only 9 games as a sophomore. Ridiculous after the catchability, raw talent. And that's all these guys. CJ Henderson, only 18 catches allowed as a sophomore, took a step back with injuries. Kayvon Chason, ACL injury as a sophomore, maybe the most physically gifted edge in this draft class, has some reps on tape where he beats pretty much every tackle he goes against, even Andrew Thomas in that game against Georgia. So they went shot for the moon with these guys, and guys who honestly might not be good next year. And that's kind of almost what you want if you're the Jaguars selling off your entire team here. You want to be in that Trevor Lawrence conversation. That's where you want to be. You want to be playing for 2021, not for 2020. That's what they did here. And then Devon Hamilton is just a very sure thing in the run game. This is where you draft sure things in the run game. It's the 3rd round, not top 10, like we just kind of got over there. But that's where you get a guy who can hold the point of attack at the nose tackle position that they need in that defense that, teams still need in today's NFL. So I like this draft, even though I'm not a big, Kayvon Chason fan. Like those guys are kind of lower at the top, those first 2 picks, and where I would have taken them, on the board there. I like the overall theme and what they're building for the future.
I want to love this draft. And I think you look at the ceiling, you look at the ceilings of the first 3 players. CJ Henderson could be insane. And he has the same match and mirror ability, the movement skills similar to Jeffrey Okudah. Laviska Shenault, if healthy, is going to be a monster. Kayvon Chason has been compared to Danielle Hunter and what he's done in the NFL. But if you look at the floors on those first 3 picks, Laviska Shenault doesn't play a game, battles injuries his entire career. Kayvon Chason can't overcome the length, and CJ Henderson never becomes that alpha and ends up, not producing at a high level. And he has some injury history as well. Like the floors on these top 3 picks are crazy. But with that being said, I do agree with Mike and what he said previously is that these aren't 2020 picks. These are 2021, 2022. Try and develop these players. Try and keep them healthy. And see if you can really get great return down the road.
That's going exactly the opposite way of Carolina, which is that neither one of these draft classes could contribute in 2020, but the ceiling is so much higher for this group.
True, that's a good point.
As they sort of rebuild and possibly tank for a quarterback next year.
Here's what I'd say.
These guys are all getting out there this year, though. I mean, we'll know pretty quickly what they have.
Absolutely.
These guys hitting their 90th percentile outcome, any one of their top 3 picks would be more valuable than the Panthers' top pick, right? And that's sort of what you're looking for. You're trying to, roll the dice and have all of them come up snake eyes. And if you do, you're in great shape. But if not, you're still in the running for Trevor or Justin Fields or whoever is the next Joe Burrow, right? And that's what you want.
The only thing I'll add about Devon Hamilton as the 3rd rounder, getting him in the 70s, if you get your good run stopping interior D lineman in the 70s, 80s, 90s in the draft, you're not as tempted to take the Derek Browns of the world the following season. So
that's a good point.
If you can get just solid players in rounds 3, 4, and 5, safe players that you can protect, like a Devon Hamilton, then you can handle some more of the risk that you take, what quote unquote risk, right? The high ceiling guys in the 1st and 2nd round.
I'm going
I'm turning this draft grade in, thinking it's a B plus, but knowing that it could come back an F. I know it could come back an F.
You got to grade it now, Austin. You can't grade it later. Packers fans need to know that.
I'm going B plus. But I know on Monday when the teacher hands it back, it could very well be an F because these guys could bust.
I'm going A minus.
Nice.
B minus.
B for me.
All right. Did I beat someone? I'm not the lowest this time. That's great. The Cleveland Browns, who, obviously changed their whole front office structure this past season. They go Jedrick Wills at 10, and he was a guy that I do want to talk about for a second. And Mike, I want to ask you this question. So his grade did not match the grade of some of the other top tackles. Mm-hmm. Is it concerning when you see a guy that has the tools like that, but then the grade doesn't match it? How do you square those two?
Not really. When guys are only 20 years old, when they're young, that's kind of how it goes. And the fact that he's getting better already, I'm not too worried. Like if the guy's made the necessary adjustments and made a massive leap in sort of production, what we saw from 2018 and 2019, you can project forward. Like the guys do develop. You get better coaching than at the NFL level sometimes, usually. And so I think he will, he has a high, starting point. He has with the way he moves laterally, it gives you a big leg up on guys who don't move the way he moves in the NFL. So I'm a big fan of that pick. The Delpit pick, obviously, 15th on our board. We banged the table for him saying, you take the missed tackles out of the equation, he is different from the rest of the safety class in terms of what he brings to the table in coverage. And then Jordan Elliott, highest grade DT in college football last season, 23rd in our big board. This, to me, the other A-plus draft. Not a big fan of Jacob Phillips, but whatever. Those first three picks, going to get it done for me.
Browns fans were begging for a safety, some sort of back seven, a safety, a linebacker, some sort of coverage player. I didn't want to force one if I'm the Browns, but when you get our number 15 player in Delpit, I love that. And, of course, Jordan Elliott, the guy, him and Josh Jones, two guys we got to figure out, okay, why did they fall to the 70s and 80s? So love that value there, obviously. The question about Wills playing right tackle and Jack Conklin being a right tackle, left tackle and right tackle are equivalent positions, but there's a little bit inherent risk, right, with trying to flip Wills to the other side. So it might be a little bit of time as he gets adjusted.
Jedrick Wills improved, and this is, he's young. He also improved his pressure rate allowed from 3.7%, nearly cut it in half, to 2% last season. So you're seeing the improvement there that gives you some excitement.
Yeah, when I look at this draft, the only thing that sticks out at me is what are the Browns going to do with respect to a third wide receiver? And I know that they want to run the Minnesota offense from a season ago, but they do need a weapon, a third guy to go with that. But that might, happen, next year with, Tyler Johnson or somebody like that here in round 4.
I'm going, I think I'm going A- here. I really like this draft. Jordan Elliott's a steal.
Yeah. I'm going A. This is an A draft for me. I think they picked very good players on PFF's board. If you're purely looking at PFF's projection of these players, this is slam dunk every step of the way.
Yeah, I agree. I thought, maybe they tried to trade out of 10, but I like sticking with it and taking a good player. Let's move on to the Jets, the Jets. This draft reminded me of the Jaguars draft, actually. You take players that are super toolsy, that have ridiculous athletic profiles in Becton and Mims, and a big kind of risk in Ashton Davis because of the injuries there. And then Jabari Zuniga is similar. Becton is just a huge reach for me. If you're picking at 11 and you're taking a tackle, I want to have seen him do it, because when you're drafting a tackle, you just can't have him be a turnstile. That's the thing you can't have. And so I want guys that are offering lower risk.
That is the thing. And that pick aside, that one's, you swung for the fences. This is like Rashawn Gary last year, but honestly, probably a little bit better than Rashawn Gary. I feel better about Becton playing in the NFL than I did Gary learning how to rush the passer. So I don't hate what they did there. It was either going to be him or Josh Jones on our board, and obviously the NFL didn't seem to like Josh Jones. So after that, though, those next two picks, I was a big fan of. So I think overall, I'd probably go something like B- for this draft because of that second Denzel Mims, Ashton Davis. Mims, I'm not even a big fan of, but 59th overall, you're not going to find tools that he has 59th overall in any other draft. And Ashton Davis, we just love what he brings to the table as a deep safety.
And Denzel Mims can like quickly replace what Robbie Anderson was doing, I feel like, with the New York Jets. And I think he has similar tools there. I think he's a better player, potentially could be a better player than Robbie Anderson. I think it's the two picks, Mims and Ashton Davis, that make up for like what PFF would consider a reach, maybe others wouldn't, in Mekhi Becton. But I feel like I find myself talking myself into the Mekhi Becton pick because of the ceiling. But again, you have to go back to PFF's pass blocking grades and the predictive power they do have. Like, we have not seen it at the collegiate level. It could be some time. Like, yes, they filled a need at offensive tackle, but how soon? Because I don't know when Mekhi Becton will be a top flight offensive tackle in the NFL. I don't know if he will either.
The Jets' decisions here were one of the biggest stories of the draft to me. They have done, when you go back to the 2018 class of Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Josh Allen, Lamar, Josh Rosen, other than Rosen, the Jets have done the worst job of building around Sam Darnold. One of the worst offensive lines, one of the worst groups of wide receivers. And they put so much resource into pretty much some mediocre offseason offensive line resources. You had to at least take shots there. They're taking another shot with Becton. Process-wise, I'm fine with it, but it's going to be the most volatile position unit, I think, in the entire NFL with the free agents that they brought in and with Becton. And then I like the fact that they went receiver. Ashton Davis is good value there, but this is as boom or bust, I think, as any draft because of what they currently have on the roster and just how crucial it is for Sam Darnold's development.
Becton is – so the Giants are at 4. They take Thomas. You feel so good about Thomas not being a huge bust, right? And that is crucial because if you're trying to say, do I know that Daniel Jones is my guy, and you have an excuse because your left tackle can't block anybody, then you're in a really tough spot. And I think that's the same thing for the Jets. If we're sitting here a year from now and you go, well, I don't really know about Darnold because he was literally getting speared by the edge rusher because Becton was getting turned around all the time. That's what you can't afford. So I have trouble going as high as I'd like to, given that they got Mims and Davis at I think good values. I'm gonna go C. I think.
Yeah, I'm gonna go C plus just because I think the weapons were an issue for Darnold. Offensive line is one of those things where the quarterback can try to help protect himself more so than anything, but he can't get open on the outside. So I do think they benefit him a little bit. And if these picks do hit their potential, they could be competing for the AFC East just like every other team in that division.
Yeah, B minus, C plus. I mean, I could even be convinced to this being a B. I don't know. I think that's where I'm at right now.
C plus, kind of with you guys.
All righty. The Tampa Bay Bucks. Tampa Bay. Tristan Wirfs, they trade up, with the Niners. And Wirfs was a guy who a lot of our mocks had going a little higher here. So I really like the value. Antoine Winfield Jr. Coverage, I always appreciate. And I know that it's a third-round pick, but just don't take a running back. Just don't do it.
Pass-catching running backs matter for Tom Brady.
Yeah, but you can find them anywhere.
He's fine, though. I mean, I think he's fine there. He'll make an impact on that roster more so than other guys will. This is not honestly, after him, the running back class stunk in my eyes. I did not like
so many wins, so many running backs
in terms of being able to catch. So that was the bottom of the barrel of this running back class was to be Keyshawn Vaughn, and then it was really no guys with even receiving ability. So I don't hate that pick as much as obviously George is going to, but then the first two ones I love. Antoine Winfield Jr., throw in more coverage, Tristan Wirfs, the guy that I never thought, this tackle class, one of those three guys we called the safe guys, the juniors who were elite grading profiles, never thought any of them would fall to them. They got one of them. I got to say I had to trade up a little bit, but they got one of them. So this is an A- draft for me. I'm a big fan.
Tristan Wirfs at 13 and Antoine Winfield Jr., where they got him, I think 45, are two fantastic picks. Yep. That's why I think it's an A- for me as well. I really do like what the Bucs did here. And biggest thing with Antoine Winfield, love the player. I've talked about it a lot, about his instincts. His dad obviously played at the high level. He really understands the position. Injuries concern me, but I think he can be a good pro. But talk about the Bucs just throwing resource in the secondary. They have drafted, highly drafted secondary members in the past 2-3 years now. You have Jamel Dean, Carlton Davis, the Kentucky safety, I'm losing his name, but they've just done a ton of resources. Sean Murphy Bunting, Mike Edwards. I really like the process in terms of hey, we are going to keep drafting members of the secondary until we have a very, very good one.
I think need and value matched up pretty well. Obviously with Wirfs, they did make the move to trade up to get him, but they need a right tackle, right? So there's some short-term but value in this. The fact that Wirfs has experience playing right tackle and he's really good. Antoine Winfield, they needed a safety, got him at the right time. And then from a running back perspective, they don't have the fourth because they got Gronk. And obviously, of all the teams, Bucks, Saints, the Packers, there's a few teams that have to think short-term here, guys. Packers. And if the Bucks are thinking short-term and they can't get a pass-catching running back until round 5, that's what they felt like they needed to do in the third. I think it's a B+.
I'm going B.
Yeah, I said B.
And I like it overall. Let's get to the Niners here.
Actually, can we make an audible? We have been going in pick order so far. We've moved past the Raiders very quickly. I think we could probably slip them in before the 49ers. I think the Raiders are located a little bit further down, but if we wanted to keep pick order, we could go Raiders with this next one.
You are really killing us here.
I'm trying. My bad.
You have to check with our production team.
Oh, that's right.
You can't just call it audible.
Oh, I suck.
You are just
sorry. Never mind.
Austin, if you guys have tuned in, Austin just likes to try and take our producer
I'm not
Tyler
trying to ruin anything.
behind the woodshed.
Tyler, can you cut his mic, please?
Let's
cut him off.
Let's go to the Niners. Okay, Javon Kinlaw at 14. They trade back for him, and he is. I'll just say my piece right now. He at least rushes the passer, and so that would get me excited about Javon Kinlaw. The tough thing there is where you're picking a guy on the interior, and just mathematically does not generate as much value as guys that impact the pass more at the receiver position or on the outside. I would have much rather doubled down on receiver, CeeDee Lamb, and then stand pat at where you were at 31. Don't get overly aggressive to get Brandon Ayuk. You trust the fact that over the course of time, GMs don't know as much as they think they know, and accept if he's there at 31, take him. If not, be like, okay, at least I have another pick to make up that value. So to me, this is a tough one to get behind. Even though I do like both players, it's the value and how much they gave up to get them.
I think Javon Kinlaw is the best defensive stack on this class. I think he can maybe not pass rush from day one. Maybe he's not an impact player right out the gate, but I think in time he will be. And eliteness over completeness. This is what started it all. I think this is an A draft to me with the two guys they got, what they can impact and bring to the table schematically and like fitting into that roster, what they bring.
I mean, I think the 49ers need coverage to sort of, keep what happened last season, which was an improvement on the back end of their defense, going when inevitably things like the Arizona Cardinals getting better.
So, why did they improve in coverage last year with the exact same players? Because they added Dee Ford and Nick Bosa. I mean, it's because they had a pass rush that was so much better and allowed them so much more the ability to, they saw so many deep dropbacks the year prior that just you weren't seeing. You have guys at quarterback position at that point can make more plays on the football, can take more risks when you trust your pass rush.
We already saw how tenuous that is, though. In the first 8 weeks of the season, they were the best defense in the NFL. In the second half of the season, they were a bottom half of the NFL unit. Now, injuries are a part of that, but that's exactly the point, right? If other teams are able to adjust to your ability to rush the passer and put your defensive backs in a vulnerable position, that's not a good thing. And the more defensive backs you have, I think the more stable you are to situations like that. I mean,
Sherman was much better. Sherman was much better.
Yeah, and he played better. But in the playoffs, I mean, we look at the games against the Green Bay Packers and the Minnesota Vikings as evidence that their defense was back. But Kansas City got whatever they wanted in the fourth quarter of that game. And in the second half of the year, I mean, they gave up a lot to Seattle, twice. They gave up a lot to the Rams the second time. And to Steve's point yesterday, teams were able to adjust on them, because, pass rush ultimately is a reactive sort of thing. I think they need to get better in the secondary today, and they missed an opportunity to in the first two rounds.
I agree with both sides of the argument here, though, because the thing that teams adjusted to is the Rams were so afraid to even just drop back and pass against them. All they ran was boot action and screens the entire time because they were so afraid of the 49ers defensive line. I think there is value in taking teams out of their offense. But I also look at the cornerback two situation there. Ahkello Witherspoon, Emmanuel Mosley. We liked Witherspoon coming out. He hasn't been the guy. Mosley was kind of comes out of nowhere and becomes a pretty good player. Sherman's getting older. I do think a forward-thinking approach says, okay, we have to get better at cornerback. But I think the actual players that they got and the process that got them there, trading DeForest Buckner, replacing him with Kinlaw, who's a good player and cheaper, and then Ayuk, who will be a good fit because of his value in space. I think overall it's pretty solid, but the forward-thinking approach, the secondary has to be addressed.
Hold on, though. I like Ayuk. I mean, his yards after the catch, best in the class. But you trade up a lot to get him, and that trade, we run 35,000 simulations of these trades. This is built on decisions made by GMs that think they know what they're doing. Wins just 39% of the time for the Niners. Like I could love a player. I'm just not going to do that because I'm spitting in the face of mathematics. Like that just doesn't make sense. That's how you lose, money if you're investing in the stock market, for example.
I didn't love Ayuk going into this draft. I liked him a lot less than Mike did. But I think if there was going to be a situation where Brandon Ayuk is his best, it is with the San Francisco 49ers, with what Kyle Shanahan does with receivers. I think Mike has talked me more and more into the pick and more into Ayuk, knowing that you can scheme him open with what the San Francisco 49ers do. And once you scheme him open, he can do a lot of crazy things with the ball in his hands, like yak ability, like you said, force miss tackle, explosiveness. And as for the Javon Kinlaw pick, like, I agree that there's probably more value there at receiver, more value there at some of the cornerbacks available, but Javon Kinlaw is like really, really good. It's just hard to hate the Javon Kinlaw pick because he is that good.
Well, and if you look at it through the lens of trading Buckner for him, it's tough because you don't know if Kinlaw is going to approach that value, but at least you're not investing, you're not reinvesting in that.
Because you're not paying Kinlaw what you're gonna what the Colts are paying Buckner. Like you're just not. Like you're gonna be able to get him on a rookie contract, and he could. I mean, Mike, would it be crazy to see Javon Kinlaw outperform what DeForest Buckner has done? I don't think so.
No, I mean he's physically more gifted in terms of like what he brings to the table, athletically graded out better in college. So yeah.
I'm gonna go C- here because I don't know if Dante Pettis. That could very well be what Brandon Ayuk ends up being. It's just there's
completely
a lot of
different skill set though. And
no, that's not my point, Steve. The point is you just don't know. You like a guy, that's great. There's a lot of things that I've liked that I've been dead wrong about. You have to accept the laws of nature that you are not that right about players.
Well, it's like kind of saying though, it's like you don't know Henry Ruggs is fast. It's like Henry Ruggs is fast. Brandon Ayuk is dynamic after the catch. Like you have a big enough sample size at some point to know.
But
I also know that Kyle Shanahan of all the offensive coordinators is going to have a plan to get the same way he got Debo in space. He's going to get Ayuk in space and those explosive running backs and George Kittle. Dante Pettis is he's a solid route runner who's now on the roster bubble because he was injured and hasn't developed the way they want. It's a completely different situation.
That's exactly my point.
The thing with Dante Pettis is because it's not really what Kyle Shanahan wants. Like Dante Pettis has some good releases on tape. Like you can tell he can create separation, but he's like, I don't need that. I need you when you get the ball and make some plays. And Deebo Samuel and Ayuk are that.
I get that, but do you see what you guys are saying? Like at the time, it was like, okay, we really like this guy, and
we didn't like that much.
I'm not saying we did. I'm saying the Niners. They drafted him, right? So theoretically, they liked him. Things happen, and that's just the nature of the beast. Everything you look at with kind of the hope of the future being good, it's just a fact of the matter that doesn't always work out. So flip the coin.
Which is why using multiple picks to take the one player is not always a good decision because the uncertainty, there's no uncertainty now with that second draft pick. It's a 0. And it's folded all up into Ayuk, so he better be good.
I'm going to go B-. I'm going to go B- with this class.
I'll say B. I mean, I do wish that they turned that DeForest Buckner pick into 3 players. I mean, that would have been a massive win. But I don't completely hate the haul that they got in the first.
I'm saying D+.
Like I said, A draft.
I sure hope you're right, Mike. God. All right, the Denver Broncos. This is one of my favorite drafts because they did exactly what you should do when there is a deep receiving class. You should pick multiple players from that class instead of investing early in one that is weaker. You invest often in one that is strong. With Judy and Hamler, I love the way that those guys will complement what they already have there in Cortland Sutton. This is putting Drew Lock in a position to succeed or fail, but have the reason be that he succeeds or fails because of the plays that he makes. And that's what you have to do if you're trying to decide on a quarterback. So I love this draft.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. I think where they drafted Cushenberry, I'm not even going to argue with that. Ojemudia is that was the ideal scheme fit for him. So even though, again, the guy was lower on our board, I get why he went there and why he went when he did, because it was a weak cornerback class after kind of the top group that we said. So I like what they did overall. This is one of my favorite Broncos draft in a while, I'll say, with what they've done. And I think this could be a sort of franchise changer for them. I'm going to go with this as an A draft for sure.
I really like the first two picks. I mean, Jerry Jeudy and double dipping at wide receiver. This is Drew Lock. You want to talk about winners and losers of the draft? Good SEO for an article headline. Drew Lock should be at the top of the list. I mean, Drew Lock absolutely won this draft with getting Jerry Jeudy and KJ Hamler. Mike's analysis of Lloyd Cushenberry scares me a bit. I know he likes a game. I'm going to lean on him, calling this one an A and evaluating those back half players. But getting those two first receivers, I think it's an A minus at worst.
With you guys, the top two guys are carrying it. The wide receiver mix is as versatile and dynamic as any in the NFL now, with Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler, and the speed that Noah Fant has. Again, the teams that come out of this making defenses stay awake at night, they're the winners. Denver's one of those teams. So, yeah, it's an A-.
I personally couldn't sleep at night last night thinking about Jerry Jeudy and KJ Hamler.
That's all the coffee, Austin. You were chugging coffee at 1 a.m.
I think if they add a quarterback here in day 3, this is probably one as close to a perfect draft as you can get.
Quarterback, QB.
Yeah, I think the issue here for this team is they're the 2017 Jags, the 2018 Bears, the 2019 Bills. They're in a great spot, and the question becomes Drew Lock doesn't even have to be all that good next year for them to make the playoffs in kind of a top-heavy but ultimately weak AFC. So, spread out the risk a little bit here. Take Fromm or Eason, maybe somebody even later on, and I think this is a great draft.
A minus for me. Let's keep moving here. The Atlanta Falcons invested a little coverage at 16 in A.J. Terrell. I like that from a process standpoint, and he was a guy that kind of continually rose up the board. So I like that. A little confused by reinvesting in the offensive line after they did so much before. I would have kind of rather doubled down on coverage or receiving here.
I mean, Alex Mack he's not going to last much longer. So Matt Hennessy fits their scheme. Where they got him, like I said, 3rd round is where the value is at interior offensive line. That's where I want to be taking guys in this class. That's where they get them. Good with that pick. So Marlon Davidson, a guy I actually really like on the interior. I think he can be a difference maker. I would be talked down from him. I thought he could be higher on our board, up in the sort of range we put Jordan Elliott in this draft class. I'd be talked down from that. But I think with how impressive he was just as an edge defender, as a jumbo edge defender, I think that even translates better inside. So I think I give this an A- draft. The A.J. Terrell one's obviously going to be a little boomer bust, but he has some movement skills. He's a developmental sort of guy, just needs to get a little stronger.
With A.J. Terrell, you turn on the Jamar Chase tape, I think everyone says he lost badly in that game. I think he lost badly at the catch points. The movement skills is why he got drafted so high. It's because you want cornerbacks like Jeffrey Okudah, like C.J. Henderson, and like Terrell that can actually move and match and mirror. They have that ability from an athleticism standpoint. I like the Terrell pick. And then Marlon Davidson, I feel like Steve's had this take before, but we haven't seen a ton of reps at interior defensive line. If that's where he's going to play, I want to see a little bit more before I feel more confident about my projection. We did see him day 1 at the Senior Bowl. He got hurt, showed up in really short shorts, and dominated everyone he played. I mean, I'm willing to move him up the board because of that. I mean, Marlon Davidson, I think, could be very good, but I just haven't seen enough of him to feel really great about that pick.
Yeah, I think it's a C for me just because they got players I don't love. Cornerback projections can be all over the place. So A.J. Terrell could be a really nice fit at 16. They had to address the position. It's still a weakness on this team that has to play Breeze and Brady, right, and Teddy Bridgewater. So they have to be better on the back end. Marlon Davidson, the thing Austin said, I just don't know that he can do it. I just didn't love that value in the 2nd round like other people did. And then Hennessy, I'm good with that as an Alex Mack. Potential replacement, the forward-thinking approach with the offensive line. I'm all about that because offensive linemen are tough to come by. So getting them a step early before the old guys get old and lose their step, I think is good process.
Yeah, I'm a fan of this to the point. I'll give it a B. I just think the Falcons for so long have struggled when injuries hit, and I think depth in the secondary, starting with Terrell, is a solid move.
There were rumors that teams were trying to get up to 16, right?
Well, that was the prop for every single, like, you know, CJ Henderson, and so the Falcons were sort of the pivot point. People did not think that they would ultimately end up taking a corner given their history, but they ended up doing it.
All right, the Cowboys. This is one of my favorite drafts. CeeDee Lamb, Trayvon Diggs. Trayvon Diggs is the guy that went at 51, who I thought could have easily gone in the first round. And then they get a guy on the interior in the third round. That's where you take a guy on the interior, not in the first couple of rounds. This gets a flat A for me because they waited, they were patient, and they benefited. CeeDee Lamb at 17 is a joke, an absolute joke.
Yes, my other A+, my third A+. There it is. This draft is awesome. I mean, straight up, CeeDee Lamb, positions of value, positions of need. I mean, I say wide receiver, probably you don't think of it as a need there. Mike McCarthy runs like 3 wide entirely. So it's a need. He's going to start. He's going to play a lot of snaps there, CeeDee Lamb. And then Neville Gallimore gets you a little, you know, project-ish defensive tackle, but has the physical tools to win in the NFL. That first step is legit. I think his role, I don't know what the Cowboys are necessarily going to do defensively now, but I think he'll be better utilized in the NFL than he was at Oklahoma, where he was like nose tackle a lot of the time there.
This is an A draft. I mean, CeeDee Lamb, Trayvon Diggs are slam dunks, and I don't love Neville Gallimore, but where they got him, I think it's a great pick.
Yeah, I mean, isn't this everything you guys talk about, mitigating risk and all that stuff? It's because teams can't draft well every single year. How different is this from last year's Cowboys draft, where they traded their first for Amari Cooper, they got Tristan Hill in the second round? Like, they didn't come away with any good players in last year's draft, and now they have 3 legitimate guys that can contribute early and in the long term. So all about getting that third playmaker for Dak Prescott. That's the way to maximize his value. A+ for me for the Cowboys.
Yeah, not a whole lot more to say. A for me.
How about them Cowboys? Okay, we moved to the Eagles. I love having these two teams back to back because they did the same thing. The Eagles sat there and waited, took Jalen Reagor. Man, I was bummed when Reagor went before my pick with the Niners in our mock draft at 13. I love Reagor. I love what he brings. This is the perfect pick for the Eagles. He's tough. He gets downfield. He breaks tackles. And Jalen Hurts, this is a pick that I think actually brings a lot of value to their team because of the ingenuity of their offense. I think the way they'll use him, and he can be a backup that can win you games. And then Davion Taylor, that's a swing for the fences there, taking a guy that potentially, we don't know a lot about him because he didn't play a lot.
Big shock here. I didn't realize this, but Eagles fans are really mad right now.
Dude,
they are
why?
angry at this. I had no
They
idea.
booed the McNabb pick because they wanted Ricky Williams. Just let's put this into context here.
Well, they booed us when we told them they had a good offensive line a couple of years ago, too. I get it. But I think everybody gets so locked in because they were getting mocked Justin Jefferson, and they don't realize how much we love Jalen Reagor in that fit as a deep threat. I don't think they realize the potential upside of having a Jalen Hurts as a backup quarterback instead of whatever that second round. They really wanted to package that second round pick to go get CeeDee Lamb rather than having Jalen Reagor and Jalen Hurts and a nice athletic linebacker in Davion Taylor. It's a really good draft. So Eagles fans, stop being so upset.
Yeah, this is a B+ draft for me. I love Jalen Reagor. I feel like we've said that a ton. He had a bad situation at TCU. He's a good athlete. I think he's going to be a better pro. And then for Jalen Hurts, if there's any team that should understand the value of having a good backup quarterback, it's the Philadelphia Eagles that won a Super Bowl with Nick Foles. Like Jalen Hurts, Carson Wentz has been injured. They don't win that Super Bowl without Nick Foles. And Davion Taylor, if you can get a project with his potential at pick 103, I think that's a good pick as well. I'm going B+.
Yeah, Carson Wentz has 4 attempts in the playoffs in his career, and they've made the playoffs 3 straight years. What do you like? What are you expecting, Eagles fans? Like, that's a valuable position on your roster then if the guy can't make it through 16 games in the playoffs.
Backup quarterbacks start on the Eagles. They play starting conference set.
I give it a B+.
The one other play there too, right? If Hurts never sees the field and all he does is go out and have a few good preseason games, teams are going to be trying to get him, right? And then you flip him for a second, you flip him for a first, right? It is really good process to have potentially good quarterbacks on your roster, even if you already have a good one.
And no one is giving, like Tyrod Taylor for the Ravens, right? Like there are tons of backup. Jimmy G for the New England Patriots. Like these things happen all the time, and it's okay to make yourself a little bit stable. If Carson Wentz is healthy enough to play every single game for the next 5 years, the Eagles fans should be happy that this pick had less value, not upset that that the Eagles took precautions to begin with.
I am giving this an A. I thought this was fantastic. The Eagles did really, I thought a lot of good things last year. I like this one even more. This is one of my favorite drafts. All righty.
Looks good.
Let's move on to the New Orleans Saints. Cesar Ruiz, center at 24. This confused the living daylights out of me. I'd like someone to please explain.
Yeah, no, there's no explanation really. This is just they think he's good, and I think he's good too. So they're playing for the future for some reason. I mean, they have been seemingly overly like they build that offensive line and keep throwing resources at that offensive line. Trade for Max Unger, sign Larry Warford, re-sign Andrews Pete, first rounder on Andrews Pete. Like they've thrown a bunch of draft capital at this offensive line. So that's just the way they build and want to keep that strength to strength sort of thing. So more power to them. Again, a little bit of an odd pick, but then the next two, 105 on our board, 105, 74 on our board, 42, or 74 overall, 42 on our board, Zach Bond. They got two really good guys there in the third round. So the Saints have been one of the best drafting teams in the NFL, like over the past decade. They know how to scout. Mickey Loomis has proven that. The guys he does target usually tend to be pretty good. So I'm going to go B- with this, but I still like the draft.
Well, no one else cares about the Saints. I'm going to go. I'm going to go C- just because center.
This is where the consensus board, like the Athletics consensus board, doesn't factor in a ton of positional value, because I think they could have got better players at better positional value. But you look at, Cesar Ruiz was the 30th ranked player on the consensus board. Zach Bond, 32. Adam Troutman, 72. Like they got players that like a lot of other people really, really liked, regardless of positional value. I feel like the Saints feel confident they got good players with these picks. I'm going to say C+.
Well, and when you have quarterback in place, and you also, to their credit, have defensive back in place with some of the signings they've made, wide receiver in place with some of the signings they've made, you can afford to take good players that might not be at valuable positions. That being said, like how much do these players help them win now, which is the sort of approach.
Thanks for the thread, Steve.
It's an interesting discussion on the Eagles that Adam Schefter's bringing up about them. They're using coronavirus to value backup quarterback even more. I think that's a fascinating angle.
You talk about injury prone. I mean, what about virus prone? Virus prone, I don't know. I don't know which quarterbacks are more virus prone.
Anyway, Saints are C.
Sam Darnold, you better get backup quarterback if you talk about virus prone.
He definitely already has gotten it and just didn't know, right?
Back to the Saints. I'm going C for center.
Love it. All right. We are finally here. The Green Bay Packers. No. Jordan Love. They trade up for Jordan Love. A.J. Dillon, the beast of Lambeau Field at 62. And then versatility personified, Josiah DeGuara, tight end from Cincinnati.
They got William Henderson, man.
So A.J. Dillon, it says not ranked there. It's not because we forgot about him. It's because I don't think his skill set brings any value to the table in the NFL. Like a guy who is a pure bruiser who sprints at the line of scrimmage every snap and can, get some guys to bounce off him when he has a full head of steam, but can't make any guy miss. Has average to below average vision and no real impact on the passing game whatsoever. It's just not a thing there's just no upshot there. The best value you're going to get out of him is so minuscule that we're not going to rank him on the top 250 players. That's why he's not ranked. And that's why I would never have taken him in round 2. Jordan Love is trading up to draft Jordan Love was far and away their best decision in this draft. Now, I guess Josiah DeGuara, for the role he's probably going to play there, can be a value add, but another guy who's just capped at the value he can add to your team. Like in best case scenario, he's Kyle Juszczyk for you. Like that's your best case scenario. He's a fullback H-back that you pay $6 to $8 million a year on the free agent market.
Well, and are they trying to build the 49ers here?
They are.
With
Jordan
Love as Jimmy G, which I think is as much flack as Jimmy G gets. That's a slap in the face for him.
I think they're trying to build the Seahawks. I think they're trying to do what the Seahawks do. So the Seahawks do everything in their power to get into third and short by running the ball and then, running play action for Russell Wilson. All the reports are that the Packers want to really emphasize the running game, have it all tied together and all that stuff. take the ball out of Aaron Rodgers' hands. Like this is a
Smart.
This is a strong decision by Matt LaFleur and the entire Packers organization to try to go super run heavy. This might look a lot like what the Seahawks are doing when you have a top 8 quarterback and you're taking the ball out of his hands.
I said that, the Chargers are one of my least favorite draft classes. I will say this is my least favorite. And let me clarify, my least favorite process. I know we don't know what these players are going to be, but this is my least favorite process in terms of a team that was in the NFC Championship game this past year, drafted all backups. Like these players are all backups and 2 of them are at very low positional value. One of them's not even ranked on PFF's board. Like again, least favorite class, least favorite process. I do not like the decisions the Green Bay Packers made.
I agree with Mike in that Jordan Love was their best pick because the chances are that, you can do, if he looks good in a couple of games, and, Aaron Rodgers has gotten injured before. I mean, people are going to lose their minds. They're going to melt down trying to trade for the next Patrick Mahomes, right? So if you can get anything out of him, you certainly could get a lot, right, if he just does something decent. But it also could motivate the guy that their entire franchise rests on, which is Aaron Rodgers. That's why the other 2 picks make 0 sense, because you're going to win and lose, not because A.J. Dillon is running through people, but because Aaron Rodgers plays really well. This gets an F.
Yeah, so the Jordan Love decision to me was like a C, like to draft him and trade up. That's just like a high variance, whatever. If you really thought that highly of him, more power to you. The rest of the draft gets an F. So overall, it's an F.
Yeah, the process of trying to get the next quarterback, I don't hate, but when you're so close with an Aaron Rodgers and he's got one of the worst groups of receivers in the NFL. I mean, so that process I don't love. If you have a legit mid-tier quarterback and you're looking at the future, I don't hate that from a process standpoint because of what we said with Jalen Hurts. But yeah,
they drafted 3 backups and only 1 plays a valuable position. 2 play the least valuable positions in the NFL.
And the backup, the quarterback is, in our estimation, not a first-round prospect. So they moved up and reached for him, despite positional value.
Was anyone going to take him? Like, did they need to trade up for that?
Well,
maybe the Colts early second.
Maybe some
Colts feel like a team.
Other trade up, possibly.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, after New Orleans didn't take, all the teams that were sort of like Las Vegas at 19, New Orleans at 24, I believe, right? Like it sort of didn't make a whole lot of. I guess New England was always a threat. But New England had already moved back from 23.
Yeah. It almost legitimately feels like they traded up just to show that they liked him more, and motivate.
Foles, give him $20 million.
Motivate Rodgers a little bit more. The Chicago Bears. Jalen Johnson was one of my favorite picks. Cole Kmet, one of my least favorite picks. So I am going to split the baby here and go C.
Yeah, the Bears. I don't think they needed a 10th tight end. So definitely not a need pick and not a value pick, as we just said. Tight end, one of the least valuable positions in the NFL, unless you are a difference maker, and he doesn't fit the difference maker role. Like he's not. He ran a 4.7, but he's not dynamic like as an athlete after the catch. He doesn't have any sort of agility to speak of whatsoever. So that one head scratcher. His value is more as like a complete inline guy that can sell that role. You don't draft that 43rd overall, though, in my opinion. And then Jalen Johnson. Jalen Johnson's the one that's like a great scheme fit, great value fit, one of the best picks of the entire draft. So, like, splitting the difference here, I think just because of how good I feel about Jalen Johnson and them getting him, didn't think he'd be available, I'm going to go B-.
I'm gonna go C. Like I don't like the Cole Kmet pick. In addition to like not liking this tight end class and not valuing him there was just so many better players at that pick that I think would have made the Bears better. But I love the Jalen Johnson pick. I'm gonna go C. It's one great pick. One pick I don't really like.
Yeah, with you guys. There's always some random tight end pick that's a head scratcher in the second round, right? I think this one is it. Love Jalen Johnson. I think overall it's a C though. They could have had a really good player at 43 and Jalen Johnson. So it's a C at best.
Well, and if you flip the picks, it's not as bad of a draft, interestingly. So
no, it's still bad.
Yeah,
it's still bad.
You still anywhere there.
At 50 is still bad. Yeah, I have to give that a C then, just because again, it doesn't. I don't know. You go to that tight end room with what Jimmy Graham and Cole Kmet, Adam Shaheen. That doesn't seem like it's going to help a quarterback like Nick Foles.
I would concur. Alrighty, the Seattle Seahawks. One of the most head-scratching drafts, to be honest with you. They're Their issue was that they played way too much base and they couldn't cover anybody when they most needed to. And so they take a linebacker at 27 who can't cover and that never address the secondary. This to me is utterly, I just don't understand it as Austin said, from a process standpoint. So I'm going to go F here.
So there are two big aspects of linebacker coverage, though, that are that are different, that aren't necessarily just because you say coverage. There are two big things that play a role in that in linebackers, what they do. One is being able to make plays in front of you, like a dump off to a running back in zone, a screen play, being able to make those plays. Jordan Brooks is actually great at that. He's great in that coverage aspect, and that is the vast majority of what he'll be asked to do in Seattle. So I don't think he's bad in coverage. It's more what the traditional, like what we talked about Deion Jones being able to do, what we talked about Patrick Queen being able to do, and like man coverage on tight ends, being able to turn and run in zone coverage. He's bad at that. He's pretty stiff dude in space. So that's not going to be his game, but one of the best tacklers in this class. So for Seattle, 64th on our board, he's going to be a lot higher on their board. Obviously they draft him 27th, so he's a lot higher on their board, but he's going to be more productive in there than like where that rank is. So I don't hate on that pick. The Darrell Taylor pick, I don't think fixes any sort of problems with their edge rush, though. He's just kind of solid, unspectacular dude off the edge, a little stiff. Another guy was kind of stiff. That was kind of a theme here for them. And then Damian Lewis, actually one of the better offensive line guys they've targeted in recent years, in my opinion. So I think it's kind of a C-plus draft for me.
Jordan Brooks and Darrell Taylor are the two of the 15 biggest reaches, according to the Athletics consensus board. Like this, the people were not as high on these guys as the Seahawks were. I like the Damian Lewis pick, but like, again, play the market. Like this is just not good process, in my opinion, for the Seattle Seahawks. It's also not great positional value if you look at it from that point too. I'm going to say C- for this one.
The Seahawks are always the most fascinating team, right? They just value players differently. We always joke about like, hey, teams should swing for the fences. The Seahawks really think that they are. I mean, I think they really think that they are. And with this, we don't think that they are. So the best thing they did last year was turn one first rounder into 6 picks, and they got like 2 or 3 good players out of them. If they had done that, that would have mitigated some of the risk. I think it's a C-. It's a run-stopping linebacker. Mike described a late second round, third round type of player with your very good description of Jordan Brooks. Darrell Taylor, you described a third-round player. Damian Lewis is a third-round player. They got 3 third-rounders the first 3 rounds.
Love to see it. Nothing else to add there.
That sums it up.
All righty.
Speaking of third-rounders.
Tennessee Titans, baby. Offensive tackle / guard. I mean, I guess if you take a guy in the first round, you got to play him at tackle, right? But
Dude, he looks mean. I would draft him.
Dude, his voice. Have you heard his voice, Steve? He has got the deepest voice in the class. I mean, this guy sound. I mean, Mike, you said what was the tweet, Mike? You said
it sounds like he's a
whistleblower.
Yeah, whistleblower. Face is blacked out, and they changed the voice.
But Christian Fulton at 61, it was one of my favorite picks that we saw all of yesterday. So I really like that pick. Eric, you wrote about Isaiah Wilson. You also looked at the text analytics comparing offensive tackles, and both of those things shed some interesting light on Wilson.
Yeah, I mean, he did look good from a perspective of the projections, but a lot of that is just that freak, like being big and not, and pretty athletic. When you look at text analytics, you get some interesting looks, right? His top closest comps are Andre Dillard so far, not great. Greg Little, so far not great. Donovan Smith, bad. TJ Clemmings, horrible, right? So you look at some of those things where people writing about him, even Cam Robinson is up there with him as well. I think it's an interesting one. I trust the people watching him play more than I trust the numbers, I think, in this instance.
Yeah, he's a guy I think we were all wondering why he was getting first-round hype, right? Big guy who just never really produced at an extremely high level. Mike's comp was Orlando Brown. But either way, Christian Fulton pick, I think, is one of the most important ones in the entire draft. The Titans have been sneaky good at cornerback, 3 deep at cornerback. They can remain 3 deep at cornerback, and Adoree Jackson's in a contract year. So that could be one of the best picks of the entire draft. I just wish they did something better with their first rounder with Wilson.
Yeah, I mean, I love the Christian Fulton pick. You don't love the Isaiah Wilson, and I would even throw the Darrington. I'm losing his last name now, but the running back out of App State. I feel like those two picks aren't great, especially when you got Derrick Henry, future Hall of Famer, in the backfield. I don't think you need the App State kid.
Or an offensive line.
Yeah.
So what? I don't know what they did with their first pick there.
Yeah, that one was just a head scratcher, the Isaiah Wilson. Like, he's limited in terms of pass protection.
You said this before, Mike. You just don't
thing.
take projects at offensive tackle in the first round. Like Isaiah Wilson,
so that's the thing. I'm not even sure he's a project.
That's what I was just. He's not a project. Like, he's not a great athlete. Like, this guy gets burnt.
He doesn't win. That's not what wins in pass protection.
Put him on toast.
And it's like everyone wanted to point to. You're going to give that outlier. Oh, Orlando Brown's combine. Orlando Brown went to the best scheme for him in Baltimore, where no one gets to rush Lamar Jackson recklessly. No one gets to use speed rush moves against Lamar Jackson, because that's how everyone has to bull rush off the outside to play contain, or else he's going to break the pocket and you get toasted. So from that perspective, helps him out a lot in pass pro. And then 2, play action heavy, gets his hands on guys. And then 3, was a lot better athlete and a lot better in college at Oklahoma in terms of the way he graded out there. So
he was good.
Yeah, he was a baller in college. Like, so you overlook some of those.
He was the guy who was a first rounder, and then the combine dropped him down. Whereas Isaiah Wilson was never a first rounder, had the same bad combine, if not actually worse combine, and then gets moved up into the first round.
Those Caleb Chase-on reps are what keep you up at night drafting Isaiah Wilson. You're going to go against Caleb Chase-on level athletes in the NFL, and they're going to treat you very similarly.
I will say C+, because Christian Fulton. Like the old flip it in your head, I probably would have been all right with it. So I'll go C+.
That's fair. C+.
I'm going to go C.
I'm going C as well. All righty. The Kansas City Chiefs, the defending Super Bowl champions. The running back at 1 got the fantasy community all excited. From a football winning process, I just don't understand it. You have to create an environment to keep Patrick Mahomes, who you're going to have to pay a ton of money, in a position to always succeed. And a running back is that's just not the way to do it. I really liked Willie Gay Jr., though. I thought that was a fantastic pick. And then Lucas Yang, who I think is doing exactly what I just described. That's drafting a player that down the road can help you keep Patrick Mahomes in a situation where he can succeed. But at 32, you got to do better than a running back.
They're in a situation where their offense is still going to be very good, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to benefit from it. And this pick is going to look pretty good, right, on the surface. But my issues, I think, with the way that they've approached this draft is that they only have 2 picks left. And they haven't addressed corner. They haven't addressed safety. They haven't addressed edge. Some of the positions where they really struggle. And as a result, I don't think that they're going to I don't think this draft is going to be a net positive for them. I wrote about on the site that basically Edwards-Helaire has to make them 2% more efficient on offense running the football for it to justify this decision, and no running back can do that consistently.
We have breaking news, George.
Yeah. Trent Williams traded to the 49ers.
Wow.
Washington gets
my gosh,
a 5th and a 3rd next year.
That is
what does this do? Is Joe Staley retiring?
That's what I'm trying to figure out.
So Mike McGlinchey's firmly at right tackle, right? So then you have Staley.
Hell. They're not going to flip Trent Williams or Joe Staley.
They put Staley at guard.
Are they going to trade? Are they going to trade McGlinchey to the Raiders because that's who they actually wanted, and not Colton Miller? I don't know. That could be an option.
Can they trade McGlinchey for Derwin James?
I doubt it. I don't know. But that's eliteness over completeness, Mike. Trading for Trent Williams when you got McGlinchey and Joe Staley, that's huge. But
that's also classic 49ers, right? They're just going for it.
Can I?
That's not even that's nothing. That's you make that in your sleep.
Last night I said, would a team like the Bengals go get Trent Williams? And people go, I don't know if they'd take a 3rd for him. They just took a 5th and a 3rd next year.
Dude, that's a great pickup by the Niners. I feel like that's a situation where we weren't looking for Trent Williams, but then you found out he was going for a 3rd and a 5th. Like, dude, we'll throw our hat in the ring. We might
I think the big question now is Staley. It's an improvement over what Staley's been the last year or two, and it's gonna you're gonna have that a strength to strength up front for the next couple of years. Trent Williams is one of the best run blockers, one of the best pass blockers, one of the best all around left tackles. Huge move for the Niners. I want to see what happens with Staley now.
To go back to the Chiefs, just wanted to add my comment there. Like, I love the Willie Gay Jr. pick. I think that's going to be the best pick of this draft class for the Chiefs. And I think taking Lucas Niang where they did, a developmental piece that needs to kind of restart from a technique standpoint from where they did was good. But I think for the running back position, taking Clyde Edwards-Helaire at 32, that was completeness over eliteness. I think they should have gotten elite at the receiver position, taking a guy that they liked, like a Michael Pittman Jr. I don't care. Take someone that already at a position of strength at a higher positional value that isn't the running back like Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
I think if you're going to draft a running back, that's fine. He was a fine pick to draft there. So moving on from that, Willie Gay adds something different to this Chiefs team. That pick I love, and I think could be an immediate sort of impact value add out the gate. Even if, I mean, it'd be impossible not to with how bad their linebackers were last year, right? So I still, they got better from a team that just won the Super Bowl, and that's all you can really ask at this point. But I thought they could have addressed different positions. I will go B- for them.
I mean, here's the tough thing is like, yes, they're better this year for sure, right? But you look a couple years down the road, and if they are bereft of coverage and you look back and you go, man, just take a shot at a corner there at 32. Like, they're not going to be struggling because their running backs aren't good in 2 years. Like, that, the reason that they fail in 2 years or 3 years, if they do, is not the running back position, right? And I think that was the argument.
I would look at it this way too. Patrick Mahomes is awesome, right? We think he's on a Hall of Fame path and all that stuff. However, he did walk into this incredible situation of Andy Reid plus Tyreek Hill plus Travis Kelce and a couple other decent playmakers.
And
if
good
anything,
tackles.
yeah, and if anything happens to Tyreek Hill, who is a unique player, and Travis Kelce, who is a unique player, does Patrick Mahomes, he's still great, but does he break the league great? Like, your goal should always be to have a guy that's capable of breaking the league. Now, a running back is a nice complement to their current pieces with his pass catching ability, but the forward-thinking approach, if you had another game-breaking receiver, both for the short and long term, like, that should be your goal to keep Patrick Mahomes as a guy that can, potentially put up 50 touchdowns in any given season.
And
Let's give Social a clean clip here and grade this Trent Williams trade for the 49ers. This is just nothing but a slam dunk for the San Francisco 49ers.
This is the Niners. This is the Niners' best move of the draft. This is the best use of a draft pick that the Niners have made in this draft by far. And I mean, if Joe Staley is retiring, this pick potentially goes a long way towards saving their season, I think.
Yeah, I agree. They had trouble on the interior of the offensive line in the second half of the season. They had injuries and everything. If Staley's going to remain, maybe he's a guard in the future. I don't know, traits and everything.
What?
Maybe. I don't know.
This is an A+ slam dunk, 1 year rental, whatever. Who cares? You're a great team right now. It's not costing you a lot of draft capital, and he's not making that much money compared to elite left tackles in the NFL. So
Williams hasn't graded under 80 since 2012. He's got 2 years over 90. The potential hit on this is just incredible. And I just think the process, we always talk about how we're talking about draft analysis. How do teams use their 3rd round pick, their 4th round pick, their 5th round pick? One of the reasons why you accumulate those assets is so you can get veteran players as well. So it's a good process by the 49ers to take a future third, and a 5th to go get potentially one of the top 3 left tackles in the entire NFL.
Booyah. Chiefs grades real quick, around the horn here.
I'm going to go C+ here.
Yeah,
C+. That's what I was saying. Come on, Austin.
D+.
Sorry. I didn't hear you say it. I'm sorry.
I know. I copied you.
I'm going C-. All righty. The New England Patriots trade out of the 1st round. And I was thinking last night, there are a lot of teams that get a ton of press for like, hey, they killed the draft. They're doing so well. And there's some teams that are under the radar. The Broncos were one of those. I love their draft. The Patriots are another. They made a really savvy trade back that generated some value. They won that trade with the Chargers decisively, picking up two picks later on. And then I really like what they've done with them, getting guys that can be multiple and fit the role that Bill Belichick wants to put them in, right? It allows their defense to adjust with Duggar and Uche, and honestly Jennings as well. And then the 2 tight ends, look, that's what they do. So I thought this was a great draft for the Patriots.
Yeah, I think it was just kind of like solid across the board where we had these guys fine with every single pick. Going back-to-back tight ends, if you're going to go, guys, these guys have the athleticism to win at the NFL and the size at the position to be inline guys for them. They both were kind of underutilized over the course of their careers. It's kind of just like B+. Like I like every move in and of itself. I'm fine with no real slam dunk home runs where I was like, damn, that value that the guy's great, but I would not going to necessarily argue with any either.
I don't love the tight end picks a lot. I don't like the tight end picks too much. I think this was overall a pretty bad tight end class, but I do like Kyle Duggar and Josh Uche specifically because of the fits. Like the New England's going to get very good value out of those players, more so than if they went to other defenses. And I think Bill Belichick's getting the best out of Duggar and Uche. I'm going B- for this Patriots draft.
So to your point on the tight ends there, Austin, and to piggyback on what George keeps saying, like when you have good players, this is why you just draft good players every year, regardless of position, right? Or get valuable positions, but get the best players. They have such a need at tight end. That might have been the worst group of tight ends the NFL's seen in the last 10 years last year. And now they happen to need a tight end with a terrible tight end class. So They should have been picking these good players along the way. I think the story out of New England, though, is that it's just business as usual post Tom Brady. I mean, Bill Belichick, there was talk, is he going to trade up for Tua? Is he going to love Jordan Love in the first round? What is he going to do? It's a vote of confidence to a point for Jarrett Stidham, and that it's just business as usual. Sure, we'll trade down. We'll take an athletic safety in Kyle Duggar. We'll take a versatile edge in Josh Uche. I think it's just a good, solid Patriots draft, but the big question still remains, what are they going to do at quarterback? I just think it's fascinating that process hasn't changed in New England with Bill and his dog making all these picks.
Yeah, B for me. I think I like the Duggar pick. I like the way that defense is shaping out. I wonder how much you can win with defense and Jarrett Stidham at quarterback, though.
Mike, before we get to the next team, can you quickly react to the Washington Redskins have just selected at the top of the fourth round here, Sadiq Charles, the LSU offensive tackle. Probably not the immediate replacement for Trent Williams, but it is a tackle.
Oh, he's a project tackle, and he's really athletic. He was kind of undersized. He looked like 290 on his tape, like real skinny on his tape, but he showed up to the combine, I want to say like almost 310, and tested out really well athletically still. So that was a big win for him. But he lost control of a lot of blocks. He's really bad with his hands, and I wasn't a fan of his at all, to be honest, even as a project. So he did have some fans, and we'll see what happens, but he needs a lot of development at this point. Not a guy I want to plug and play for sure for the Redskins.
Gatorade Seth on it.
There it is. Patriots, I'm going to go B+ here. The trade down generated a lot of value that was not there for them. The Los Angeles Rams making the rest of the NFC West pretty happy here, taking Cam Akers at running back. This is mystifying to me. You have to help Jared Goff. You have to. And I don't understand how this helps him at all. And so for that reason, I am just confused beyond belief.
I love like the Terrell Burgess pick. The Terrell Burgess pick is awesome. All the other ones, I have questions. I have questions about.
You guys love.
Felt like a Madden draft.
They take Van Jefferson at the set. Well, this felt like they're filling out their depth chart, right? They're like, we got to replace a running back. Here's Cam Akers. Yep. We just traded Brandon Cooks. Here's Van Jefferson. We've needed an edge for the last 5 years. Here's Terrell Lewis. Terrell Burgess is the best pick, in my opinion, because he could play the slot and play safety. He's awesome. But, Mike, you and Austin loved Van Jefferson, right, at points in the process. But that's just too high for him in the second.
The best way to sum up Van Jefferson, I think it's what we hit on last night, it's like he has to do all the little things well to get open. And he does that sometimes. He pieces it all together, the son of a wide receivers coach. But, like, it's how consistent are you going to get all of the little things well, setting up your routes, the hand tech, all that stuff. I just don't know how consistent he's going to create separation. When he does, it looks beautiful. It's the teach tape, but like I just don't know how often you're going to see it.
And that's the thing. He to me, why he's so low on the board, 106 there, is he's a very crafty route runner, but he's not particularly explosive or athletic, and he's skinny, and he's almost 24 years old. Like his dad was the New York Jets wide receiver coach. He is who he is at this point. I'm not sure this guy's getting better. Like you need guys to get better once they get to the pros. And he's not getting better. And like He had 657 yards last year. Like you know, that's
can
kind
I
of
say something there? Can I say something there? When we bring
Yes.
up age, and like, oh, this prospect's already 23. Oh, he's going to be 24 when we did this upcoming season. It's not because like, man, that's an old rookie. That's going to suck. Like he's going to be 29 on his second contract. It's because he was old in college and did not produce at a high level. Like that's the problem. Like he was 23 years old this past year and did dominate. Imagine Denzel Ward at 23, 24 in college. Imagine Amari Cooper if he stayed till he's 23, 24 at Alabama. He would have been ripping people apart. The problem is Van Jefferson was an old dude in college and did not dominate against 18 and 19-year-olds. It's not that he's 24 now. It's that he was 23 a year ago and not like fantastic.
He was in the same recruiting class, or he was recruited to Ole Miss before A.J. Brown and DK Metcalf were. He was there before them, got replaced by them, and that's why he transferred.
Another thing there, too. One more thing on the age comment. Like 20 years old, when you bring up guys like Noah Benogany, Austin Jackson, these young guys, it's not great that they're 20 years old now. It's great that they produced at a high level at 19 in like some of these big conferences.
Yeah.
Like you see Tristan Wirfs, Jedrick Wills, these younger offensive tackles like dominating in the Big Ten and SEC at like 19, 20 years old. Like that's what's impressive. It's not that he's 20 years old now. It's that when he was young and way back on the development curve going against the Van Jeffersons of the world, the older players, he was still very, very good.
Yeah, well said.
Anything else on this one? This is one of my – I like that when you lead off with your favorite pick is their last pick. That's how you know.
To talk a little bit more about Terrell Burgess, it's like, I mean, this guy can play in the slot. He's like very physical, like very smart player. Like I think he can play a versatile role. I really like what the Rams are doing in the secondary. Taylor Rapp, David Long, I know one of Mike's guys from the past draft class, and now Terrell Burgess. Like I like those picks. I like the process there.
Giving this an F.
I will go D plus.
D
minus for me.
Oh
D
man,
minus.
D minus. I don't know. I feel like D is rough, but because I like Terrell Burgess, but it's probably right there, probably D plus, C minus range.
The Buffalo Bills, AJ Epinesa, number 20 on our board at 54. That's one of the better steals according to our board. And then running back Zach Moss, who, like, of all the, you're taking running back super early. A lot of teams were. At least this one, wasn't 40 picks earlier. Their defense is just really solid. I liked Epinesa here. This was a great pick.
So the Zach Moss thing at 86, and why he's there on our board is because people start to suck here. Like there's not talent available is the other thing at other positions where we're like, oh, draft as many quarterbacks possible. Like there's not a lot at this point in the draft. Not a lot of guys
start to suck here, my call.
Exactly. So you can take a guy who actually is dynamic at the running back position here. That's what Zach Moss pick. Fine with AJ Epinesa. Love that fit. Love the pick. Love where he falls to. A minus draft for me.
I'm with you there. Maybe B plus because maybe I would say that running back still may be a bit too rich there. But Epinesa to the Bills is awesome. I think that's what really keeps this up there.
I think it's a B. It's solid. Nice compliment to Jerry Hughes. Fit a need with value there. And then Moss, again, if you're going to get a running back, make it a guy that makes people miss, like Devin Singletary. So that offense gets a smidge better.
The first round pick was used on Stephon Diggs. I mean, so that not to say, of course it's not a one-to-one comparison, but you add that to getting Epinesa where they got him. That makes, I think, for a B.
Mike, throughout this draft coverage, has talked about Herbert looking good in shorts, Henry Ruggs is dunking or whatever. But Epinesa, his highlights showed up on ESPN playing basketball. I'm like, you see, he can move pretty well for a big guy. Yeah, he's not this athlete.
Dude, he had an up and under that got me real horny. It was just like, ooh, like you can't teach Jabari Zuniga to do an up and under like that.
More or less than watching Eric and Steve battle in the post at the Y.
Oh man, we need to get back
like hook shots.
I'm gonna give this a B plus. I mean, you get Diggs here as well for one of your picks. I really liked this, and there's a running back where our big board rank was better than where you picked him. That's a first.
Yeah. That's why I said that one's fine.
You just
also,
don't
we mentioned
see that.
this yesterday. We mentioned this yesterday, but Bills love forced missed tackles, man. Like Devin Singletary forced missed tackles with reckless abandon at FAU, and Zach Moss is up there with the best forced missed tackle running back in this class.
Yeah. Every time Austin comes in with a comment, Steve's face is what gives me life. All right, the Houston Texans.
Give me an interview breakdown, Austin. Let's hear it.
I talked to Zach Moss.
This one can be quick because the Texans have given away all of their picks.
Oh, man.
And so this draft doesn't really matter. a whole lot.
Look, they got a replacement for DJ Reader, guys. Come on.
But I mean, Ross Blacklock's not going to be able to do what DJ Reader did against the run, and he's not going to be good for a while. I don't know. I don't like either of these picks. I got to be honest.
It's not great. It's not great. Like Blacklock's developmental traits, at least, like he is athletic, can get in the backfield, and has like a legit excuse for being raw. You want a legit excuse. TCU just doesn't give a damn about developing the guy's hands usage there. So he has that excuse. I think he can develop into that. Not going to be, like I said, not going to be DJ Reader right off the rip. And then Jonathan Greener, though, I just didn't see it. I don't think he projects well to the NFL, unfortunately. So, man, this is probably a D+ draft for me.
They just have too many holes, right? They have so many holes at crucial spots. The back seven, their linebackers are good and solid, but they've got decent players at safety, like Justin Reed has emerged. But corner is still a massive question mark, and every team has to make a decision. Do I either trust my guys to develop, or do I continue to throw pieces at it? And it is just so risky to not throw pieces at the secondary. That's Lonnie Johnson, a solid Bradley Roby, Gary Conley, who hasn't lived up to first-round hype, Vernon Hargraves, who hasn't lived up to first-round hype. Those are good flyers to take, but they're flyers. You need more flyers in the secondary. That's my big concern about Houston. Blacklock's a fine player. Grenard's a good, fourth or fifth rounder, not a third rounder. So don't love this draft.
Before we jump to the next team, do we want to react to some of these day 3 picks that just ran through, or
not unless you know about their interviews?
Let's just go to the teams.
The Chargers drafting Joshua Kelly.
Dude, the Chargers not drafting O-line is ridiculous, but continue.
The Indianapolis Colts, and this was an early pick that I think by the time the draft ended last night, we're like, forgot this pick happened. And Michael Pittman Jr. to the Colts is one of my favorite picks. I love this pick. And then they go back and take a running back, which, look, take him at 41. He's 80 on our big board. I'll let you guys do the math, but I love Michael Pittman Jr. What he can bring to a team that has all the different pieces they have at receiver, he fits really well. So that is one of my favorite picks of round 2 or 3.
Yeah, so I'm torn on this draft because love Pittman. One of my favorite picks. I 100% agree with all that. Think he's NFL ready. Think he could be a guy who, like, year 1 could go for 1,000 yards. Jonathan Taylor, of anywhere he's going to go, Indianapolis was his best landing spot in my mind. Like, that is the best fit. So he's maximized there. Like,
he too could go for 1,000 yards.
I mean, if he doesn't go for 1,000 yards, that'd be
we know that wins championships.
And so those two, like the Taylor one you reached, whatever. Blackman tore his ACL in the conference championship game against Oregon. I didn't even love that 180 on our board doesn't even factor in injury. I didn't love his tape at all. The Colts, though, what they do defensively is odd. They have a type, and for different positions, that's almost just purely based on physical tools and not necessarily what they've done on their tape in college. So I've been wrong before about Chris Ballard picks, and so I'm not going to criticize that one too harshly. I will go C+ here.
Ooh.
Yeah, hard to give this one a B, even though how much I do like the Michael Pittman Jr. pick. Like Jonathan Taylor, probably not what you wanted to do. Julian Blackman, there's probably better value there. But like I do like the Michael Pittman Jr. fit. It's crazy how much we talked about the Colts should get Michael Pittman Jr. at 34, even before the first round. We were like they before we saw who was picked in the first round. I know we were saying like Michael Pittman Jr. at 34 is exactly what the Colts should do. It's crazy that's how it ended up.
I think there's more work to do at receiver. I've always pegged them as a team that really needs to double up at receiver. So I like to start with Pittman. We'll see what happens here on day 3. If they can get another compliment, they can salvage the draft. I thought Pittman was a good start. Didn't love the next 2 picks unless Julian Blackman does that whole cornerback conversion Mike's talking about.
Yeah.
Could be a steal there in the 3rd, but I like Pittman. It's a C. It's just the second 2 picks are just more are much riskier.
Yeah,
C is pretty fair. Maybe even C-. I can get on board with C-.
So I was C- as well, but then they traded 13 for Buckner, and I thought that was you don't give up the 13th pick to pay an interior lineman, and so
I forgot about that.
So I'm going to go D+, and that's tough because I love the Pittman pick, but just don't take a running back there. Take guys that can. If you're going to try and win now, take another receiver, man. So. My thoughts. By the way, the Giants just took Darnay Holmes, your guy. I love
that, dude. The Giants are making plays, dude. I love.
Really like what the Giants are doing, man.
The Giants are doing some good things.
Raiders drafted someone from Clemson in a major shock.
Oh man.
Stop. The Adam Schefter
Who
tweet
was
of
it?
how many guys they've taken from that one championship game is just
I didn't see that.
amazing.
I didn't see that. How many has
my
it
God.
been?
I'm going
It's
to read you
probably
the
absurd.
list. I'm going to read you the list. So from the Clemson-Alabama championship game, Cleveland Farrell, Hunter Renfrow, Trayvon Mullen, Josh Jacobs, Lester Cotton Sr., Henry Ruggs, and Tanner Muse, baby.
And
Dude.
John Simpson.
And now
They
John
just
Simpson.
drafted-
Get
they
on
just drafted
That's what I'm
board.
John
saying.
Simpson.
Mike Mayock has that tape just like running in his office. That game, just like, whoo. You see that?
So I'm trying to think about the meeting.
And Trayvon Mullen got kind of toasted in that game. I mean, if we're going to be honest.
I'm trying to think about the meeting where they came up with this strategy, and this is my thought. They go, okay, look, 5 years from now, the best players are the ones that were playing in the championship game 5 years ago. So if we literally just have that whole best
Stop.
players from that whole team, we can't lose. We'll be
Yeah, I
playing
like
in
that strategy.
that.
College roster.
That is incredible. All right, the Steelers. Chase Claypool. This was a really interesting one because is it like a tight end, flexible receiving option? I was really intrigued by him going to a team where they have shown the ability to use guys in the right situation. I thought like the Saints could have been a nifty place for him to go. So I like that pick a decent amount, even though I think it was a little bit of a reach. I'm really curious your thoughts, Mike.
Yeah, so I like this draft from the fact that they had two needs, I'd say, on this roster. Probably one's interior offensive line, two interior defensive line. Not the positions we say are like the most valuable. And so instead of just being like, let's go top IOL on our board, they go to a guy in Chase Claypool who is this, swing of the bat. Like this is the home run swing in softball. This isn't hitting the double to right field that I talked about. He has all the physical tools in the world. Is a monster, 238 pounds, played in like 220s at Notre Dame, was listed in the 220s, gets up to 238, still freakishly athletic. He could probably get to 250 in a few years the way he's developed his body over the course of his career at Notre Dame. This guy, I mean, could be there weren't any guys in this class I thought could be a George Kittle, could be a Travis Kelce, and that guy over the middle of the field that's just difficult and creates mismatches left and right besides Chase Claypool. He is the one guy. Now, he's not a polished receiver by any means, but like I said, not a lot of guys offer what he brings to the table from a physical standpoint. And Highsmith is similar, like a lot of development over the course of his college career there at Charlotte, from a walk-on to one of the highest graded edge defenders in the country this past season. So I'm a fan of both those picks.
I like
Well
both
said,
of them.
Mike.
Claypool brings a vertical threat to a team that hopes to get that vertical threat from James Washington, still could. Deontay Johnson's a great route runner. Juju can do a little bit of everything, work from the slot. They have four legitimate guys, skill sets that they can deploy for Big Ben. And then, they rely so much on their edge rushers. They've got TJ Watt on one side, have Bud Dupree on the other side as the franchise player. So they draft one every year. So having Highsmith as the Bud Dupree insurance, guys, I love it. And I get a bounce. Enjoy day 3.
Throw the damn
Steve,
ball,
Steve.
Steve. Wrap it, brother.
Thanks, guys.
Minnesota Vikings. Easily, I think, in my top 5 in terms of drafts. The Justin Jefferson one is tough, and this is why when you sit there and wait, sometimes you end up with a guy that maybe doesn't fit perfectly. But you can never have enough receiving talent. So even if he is similar to Adam Thielen, look, they have no one else. So you got to take someone there, and then going Gladney, Cleveland, Dantzler. I love that. Invest in the positions that matter and that you happen to need as well. Dantzler is one who I think maybe a few years from now we look back and we go, man, people really just lost it because he ate too much before the combine. Like that's the reason.
Same,
like,
by the way. Same.
Or during the combine. I mean, I love this draft. The Vikings, for me, I think a top 5 draft easily.
That's the thing
this
about
draft is awesome. This draft was, I mean, we weren't the highest on Justin Jefferson, but still a top 35 player on PFF's board. And then every pick after that, I really, really did like Gladney, Ezra Cleveland, and Dancer, all good picks for the Vikings.
I mean,
Yeah, honestly,
the only negative about this one is that most of these guys are going to have to play right away, and I don't know if they're going to have the kind of impact that Minnesota's going to want with the abbreviated training camp and things like that. But as bad as the first half of their offseason has gone, this is about as good of a draft as they could have had.
Yeah, so I was just going to say, honestly, I think Cameron Dantzler, pure tape evaluation, is better than Jeff Gladney. Now, the fact that he is way on the small side for the cornerback position.
Wow.
Gladney's undersized, but Dantzler, far, far smaller even than him. and couldn't even put on good weight to get to a number and still keep speed. That's the concerning thing there. And that's why he's lower on our board and obviously got drafted lower in this draft. But purely on the field, what he did this past year was better in my eyes. But so getting him in the third, if somehow you can get him up to a NFL-ish weight, NFL-ish strength, that's a W. That's a massive W for you, for a Minnesota Vikings team desperately in need of cornerbacks at this point. So I'm a big, like, you saw all those where the value of where they are versus where they picked them, all pretty much about spot on. To me, that's an A draft for the Minnesota Vikings.
It's an A draft for me too, but I'll say this. I am scared to ask Cameron Dancer to do anything about his weight outside of lift. Like having him eat more or something along those lines. I don't know if I want him putting on too much more weight. Like just play where you played your best and see where we go from there.
Yeah.
I'm going A.
Yeah.
Hey.
The Las Vegas Raiders.
Last team. I'm so
baby.
sorry again, Tyler, that I tried to flip the script. I thought we were going pick order, and I saw Raiders were low. I suck for that. I'll kick this off. I think that I like the Henry Ruggs pick more than Mike does. I think it gives them a playmaker, a dangerous weapon that defenses will have to think about. I'll tell you right now, as good as Darren Waller was last year, defenses weren't spending too many sleepless nights trying to defend Darren Waller. Henry Ruggs, you spent some sleepless nights on him. After that, though, I just don't think they had a ton of value. Again, I'm bringing up the consensus board, but looking at the consensus board, the Raiders had one of the 3 biggest reaches on day 1 and the biggest reach on day 2 compared to consensus evaluations. Like they stuck to their board through and through, very similar to what they did with Clelin Ferrell a year ago. Like I think you have to play the market. I was telling someone this recently. Half of your resources that you invest in preparing for a draft should be figuring out where the other players are going to go. Like, yes, you want to evaluate how good these players are, build a board, all those things, but like evaluate the market. Have a good feeling where Damon Arnett's going to go. Have a good feeling where guys like Tanner Muse and Lynn Bowden are going to go so that you don't overdraft, obviously.
That is a great point, man, because this is the second year this has happened in a high leverage position. And I liken it to, I love In-N-Out Burger, but I'm not going to pay $100 for it just because I have $100 in my pocket. Like I know how much it's worth, and that's what you've got to pay for things, even if you like them.
Here's to play off that a little bit. It's like we've given you $100, and you have to spend it on dinner or lunch, and you're like, well, I love In-N-Out, and though I could try something else, I'm gonna go. I have to go In-N-Out with the $100, despite like $100 probably better well spent at other places.
It's even worse than that, though.
Yeah, it's worse.
It's selling all of like your goods on eBay, right? Coming back and getting that money, and then going to In-N-Out, right? Because not only
I'm getting lost.
It dumps a lot. It dumps a lot.
That one devolved.
Yeah.
It is a double, and Tanner Muse is the animal fries.
But
it takes the surplus value they got from the Khalil Mack trade and completely flushes it down the toilet, right? That's
your
the
mom
issue.
gives you $5 to start a lemonade stand.
I mean,
every day.
The tough thing about it is you still have more money after that to spend, right? Your picks are not over. Like you could get Damon Arnett later on in the draft. That is the crazy thing, and not understanding that you have that option later on is mystifying to me.
And again, a big part of that is spending resource, like legit, like having people as their job to figure out where these guys are going to go, where market expectation is for these players.
Yeah, the draft, like Ruggs, I'm fine with Ruggs there. I would have rather had Judy or Lamb. Fine with him there. He brings something to the table. He's not going to be Tyreek Hill, but he brings something to the table that they don't have. The rest of the picks, though, I don't know. Like the Damon Arnett one, he was in the same recruiting class as Denzel Ward at Ohio State. Like, and when you project a guy to the NFL, and they're old, and if they're like raw and not like a finished product or not great, like his tape is good but not great, you want to see he has to get better. God, I'm like all over the place. He has to get better at the NFL level, and I don't think he will because he's coming from a place at Ohio State that's known for developing cornerbacks. Like those guys are hitting the league. Marshawn Lattimore, Denzel Ward, they're hitting the league NFL ready. They play NFL coverages there. So what you see is what you get when he's 24 years old. That's who you're getting. Don't expect much improvement, I would say, at that point. So I would say
C- for this draft, and I kind of want your guys' opinion. I want your opinion on this. Would you rather have had, I think the pick for the Khalil Mack trade is Khalil Mack and Cole Kmet, because the Raiders also gave up a second rounder in addition to Khalil Mack for Damon Arnett, and I think they picked Josh Jacobs, and probably one. I think was there one other pick included in that, or were those the picks? Was it Damon Arnett and Josh Jacobs for Khalil Mack and Cole Kmet, or was there another pick thrown in there?
I mean, in any event, that's not really obviously how to look at it, but it's sort of. I obviously the Bears got the better players, and they paid dearly for it, I think. But the Raiders, ultimately didn't do anything with the picks. But that's
I would have rather had the picks and had a random number generator select a random player for me.
100%. Taking the top player on the consensus board each time.
Yes.
I had this take to Austin that I think like the wisdom of the crowds thing when we talk about the consensus board. Now, I'm not going to let every Tom, Dick, and Harry throw their board into this, but like I think if you just told 20 guys you respect, told 20 guys you respect to take a board, put it together, went completely off of that, there would be something to that would be better than my personal opinion. I would imagine that if it would be
100%, 1,000%.
That's every single market, though. That's every single market. That's why the S&P 500 beats all of our individual stock tips, right? Like that's everything. And
not mine.
George bought Twitter when it was cheap.
You can't be overconfident in your own projection when time and time again you're proven wrong. Like 20 players, 20 people you respect, like 20 scouts, like 20 current and former scouts. Build a board and then go off that consensus rank for those players. Like you're going to get a better opinion of those players than your board just by itself. Like it's obvious. It
is called being humble, and that is so important. It is so important in this company. Like respect the opinions of the other people in the company and let them. Don't be so I'm right. I've got to be. I've got to 100% believe in myself only. There are people that see things that you don't, and that can generate value for you.
And a big reason for that, again, is that like we see time and time, like good drafting teams make mistakes, make bad picks, like pick on players that bust. No one is doing this at a truly elite level with even like 90-80% consistency from a hit rate standpoint. Like when no one's doing it well, you might as well like get a consensus of where like everyone's trying to value these players and try and like swing the bat with the highest ranked player on that board.
I would give this C minus. Think about this. So you take Ruggs at 12, which I'm fine with. 19, they could have doubled up. Like I would not have hated them going Jalen Reagor there.
Oh man, that would have been awesome. I am 100% with you.
Because as much as I love I love Henry Ruggs because in the projections that I trust pointed me in that direction. I love Jalen Reagor, man. I think there is, these guys are really close, and like just one of those guys ending up hitting their 70th, 80th percentile changes your team.
Yeah. So I had to take about like how underneath like route runners, big can be redundant, like big dudes who are contested catch guys can be redundant in offense. I'm not sure having two guys that run 4.3 is redundant in an offense. You need one guy that can probably separate underneath and create his own space. But having two guys with that sort of speed, I don't think is redundant.
See the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah. The Baltimore Ravens. Like the Baltimore Ravens have literally built like a track star team. Like they got a bunch of fast guys on that team now.
Texans, we'll see this year. They're actually doing it.
Very true.
I mean, if we had been looking at this and we had seen, and it went Ruggs and then Reagor and then Bowden Jr. and then, whatever the hell else they do, then this is an A.
It's the Arnett pick that really brings us down because the 19th overall pick in the draft is very valuable. And the process of bringing in Arnett, a guy that's a subpar athlete with short arms for the cornerback position, it's a little bit older and didn't produce at a high level up until this last year. Like, it's not bad process. Like, if you run the simulations on like that type of player through text analytics and athleticism, like you're not going to get hits a lot of the time.
Dude, the Denver Broncos just went with Albert O. Ooh. They are
speed.
Not DGA.
There we go. We just talked about no redundancy with speed.
The
Albert O,
Jerry
Judy,
on planet Earth.
KJ Hamler. I mean, no offense. Like they're like we want to be faster than everybody.
The Denver Broncos have got to be ecstatic, man. Like their fans.
Drew Lock is the biggest winner of the 2020 NFL draft.
Yeah, good for Denver. This really makes a lot of sense for them.
You know what's funny about this is, so we're all like, hey, the Chargers have a chance to try. They have such a talented roster. Maybe they can do something to compete with the Chiefs. The Broncos are very quickly becoming the far more formidable opponent.
No, I think Denver is finally going to make the playoffs, as Mike has predicted for the last few years. I think Denver's finally going to break through and be a wild card team in the AFC. It makes too much sense.
All right, I feel like we react to one more day 3 pick because I really like this one that maybe jump off, or where we at Ben Barch to the Jags from top of round 4. I like that a lot.
They just continue. They continue to take swings, man.
I like that.
I like that swing. That swing's great.
Mm-hmm.
I'm with it. Jaguars having a low-key very good draft. Giants as well. Broncos as well. All right.
Well,
we were going to do this.
Can we believe the Vikings have 13 picks today? Oh my God. I can't believe it.
They're going to
put it at minus 200 that one of them is a quarterback.
Okay. Which one? From?
Yeah, or what if they go University of Washington quarterback again?
Yeah, for sure. You guys are potting later, right, Austin?
Yep. Yeah, we should. Yeah, we're going to be potting shortly after the day 3.
Nice.
Be awesome. Give you a full recap of days 1, 2, and 3, baby.
So check that out, and then we're going to do another brunch tomorrow.
Brunching with the squad.
Jesus. Hopefully Steve makes it,
To quote Bruce Gradkowski, who in a lot of ways is a mentor, money don't sleep. And I'm with Bruce on that one.
Remember, promo code DRAFT2020. Get your subscription for 30% off and get your PFF draft guide. Thanks for hanging out. See you guys.